Silent. 3, 2, 1. Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
Submitted for your approval. What have we got here?
Oregon 911.
I would like to order a pizza.
You called 911 to order pizza?
Okay, I will destroy humans.
Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
Everything.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So about 5 minutes after the police got here, see, the girl Amanda told the police, I ain't just the only one. It's some more girls up in that house.
He had a gun and was poking it in my side, told me to drive. And so I drove.
Shook hands. Trump on South Korean soil. Kim Jong-un in the north.
The well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world known as the Pentaverate.
I think these boys were involved in it. They practiced it. They were considered dabblers in it.
Telling their kids that you can't go outside or a vampire will get you, just to make their kids stay and do what they want to do. God is basically the same way.
The Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute.
Let's watch a sitcom or something.
No! Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
It was very difficult for her to lose sight of the fact that she wasn't there bonding with Dylan the way I was. And I think that was a huge problem for her.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a
Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
Everything.
Well, son of a bitch. All right, guys, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Welcome back to another episode of Anything and Everything. And we do mean anything, and we do mean everything. Nothing is off the table. Get it off your chest. Good to see everybody. Sharon, Sparky, anything I like. Good morning, Joe Newman. Copper Horse, what's up? Mustang Sally. What's up, Jill Moser? And anybody else that I'm missing? Psych Ops. Welcome in, Tom N. Ooh, Christmas shopping time, Sparky. I do all that early. I start doing that in October. And then I just hide everything. Hey, Grunge Truck. When I was a teenager and ate 1/8 of some fun guy, thought aliens were picking my soul up because I thought I was about to die. Maybe they were. Maybe you were just in tune. You had a near-death experience. What's going on, Hiawatha? D-Mart. Yeah, this is going to be one of those evolving intros. It's going to be changing. It'll probably never be the same. Every episode, we're going to add something new, take things from it. Yeah, that doesn't sound fun, Grunge. I've eaten some mushrooms a few times. Not anytime recently, but I always feel like if your life is in turmoil, take some mushrooms, go out to the woods with some people that you feel safe with, and it can be very therapeutic. But I've never had. I mean, I've had like a weird kind of like a body high type thing that I wasn't enjoying one time, but I've never had like a bad experience. So that sucks. Jeanette, good morning to you. Thanks. Yeah, it still seems a little bit glitchy, and maybe I need to stop rushing it. Stop that right now. Good morning, Stephanie. Good morning to you. Came to some realizations that what people see as UFK. What's that mean, Grunge? What's up, Delulu? So these are the things that we're going to be talking about today, and there's a lot of Delulus out there when it comes to some of these cases. We're going to talk about the John Benet Ramsey case. We might start with that. We're going to get into the Hannah Kobayashi debacle. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden being pardoned. How you guys feel about that? What you think about presidential Biden or pardons for their children? We're going to talk about the Fort Worth missing trio. We're going to touch on Sarah Boone, Karen Reed. Then we'll probably finish with this UFO invasion. There's a lot of talk of that going online right now. It was supposed to be yesterday, so I guess it's come and gone. Well, we're smack dab in the middle of it, guys. What's going on, big country? And all you members, today we're having a members only meeting. So hopefully I'll see all of you there. What's going on with you, Copper? There you go. I agree with that. Or trust. You know, things become very clear to you when you're on that psilocybin. Damn right, big country. Holding it down. Okay, so I do think we should start with John Benet Ramsey. Recently, they put out a new documentary. It's pretty good. A lot of people, I guess there's mixed reviews on it, but there's so many of you out there who still believe that the Ramseys are responsible. I mean, how do you convict them? How do you convict the Ramseys in your mind with absolutely no evidence? I'm not saying that they're innocent. I'm just saying, how did you come to that conclusion? You know, and this is the problem with a lot of web sleuths out there. You know, they dig, they try to piece the puzzles together. And when they can't, you know, when they go through all this digging and they put forth all this effort and time into looking into some of these cases and they come up with their hands empty, they go right for the surface material. You know, oh, well, if I couldn't find anything or if I couldn't uncover the truth, then it's obviously the parents, you know. And we make that mistake quite often. Hiawatha, I believe aliens are angels, be they good or bad. Well, a lot of people believe that they're demons. What do you say about that? Hey, what's up? Take me to the riot. No effects. Good to see you. Yeah, I made that mistake one time. Yeah, don't do that. Do not do that. Joe says aliens are real. They are. We've had one take over this broadcast a few times, so we know that they're real. What's going on, Shane? Welcome in. Good to see you. Tom says maybe the aliens are our relatives. Maybe that's why all animals in the wild are naturally afraid of human beings. Maybe that's why animals have more instinct on Earth than humans do. Thoughts for now? I don't know. I think humans have pretty good instincts. I could see us being a very evolved primate. And I think animals are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. We think because of our intelligence that makes us smart. Sometimes that makes you even more stupid. Keep it simple, right? I think most of nature has that philosophy down pretty good. What's up, V Marie? Good to see you. How are you? Grunge Truck, just like the people who think the parents are guilty in the Summerwell, Sebastian cases. Yeah, I'm not here to say that they're innocent by any means, right? But just because they're the only names that are on a list, I mean, when somebody goes missing or is abducted or murdered, of course their family is going to be listed. They're involved. Your family members, you're a victim of true crime. Your name is going to be there. But just because your name is on a list, which you can't help, right? A family member goes missing or is murdered, your name is right there. Just like the Ramseys, just like Summer Wells' parents, Sebastian Rogers. But just because you've been unsuccessful in finding your own answers doesn't mean you got to go to the surface list, right? Oh, well, I've done all the looking. There's nothing there. Everything leads back to the parents. Just because you suck at sleuthing doesn't mean that parents are guilty. Just means you're lazy, especially if you can't prove it. If you've convinced yourself, but yet you can't convince others, it's because you don't have any proof. And if you allowed yourself to be convinced, it's because you have confirmation bias. It's that simple. If you're convinced and you can't show it to me, or if you don't have any proof that you can hold in your hand, look in the mirror and you're looking at a perfect example of confirmation bias. That's all that means. You are 100% biased, and that has been confirmed. V says invasion imminent. Did you guys hear about this? So apparently there was supposed to be an alien invasion yesterday, and I'm going to explain how that came to be. And no, I was not looking up at the sky yesterday. I didn't do that at all. Not one time. Okay, maybe a few. Hey, Stephanie, I never thought they did it. I just think John knows more, but never believed they killed her. Knows more? Like, what do you mean he knows more? Like, what does that even mean? If he knows more, you think that he wouldn't say anything about that? I just don't know where all this comes from. What's up, Piper? Shane says, my thing with the John Bonet case is the killer is an absolute sexual sadist. There's no history of abuse. Not saying the dad is innocent, but I think he might be. Well, he most likely is. I mean, the evidence points to an outside intruder. But let's just ignore all of that and point the fingers at the family, even though there's absolutely no evidence. Not at all. The wow signal almost proves there's other life out there. Is that a radio signal that's coming from space? And the truth is, Grunge, if you think about it, I mean, aren't we aliens? You know, we're so focused on aliens invading us. Eventually, we're going to evolve to the point where we're invading somebody else. I think the alien story is just our future. You know, we might be the advanced aliens that are out there, and other people are just trying to live a simple life, and they don't realize that we're coming soon with our spaceships and our nuclear bombs and our terraforming. And yeah, we're just addicted to discovering new things. We're not a content species. Stop that right now. Aliens, we Earthlings would be pretty arrogant to think we are only high functioning beings out there. Yeah, and the vastness of space would beg to differ, right? Hiawatha says, I always wondered about JBR's brother. But why? Like, how do you get there? How do you get to John Benet Ramsey's brother? Like, what piece of evidence led you to that? I'm honestly curious. Because I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm just asking, how did you get there? V says there are too many theories out there for me to say anything. We aren't alone. That's all I know. Good morning. What's up, Jeanette? Yeah, that can't be healthy. Tom N, we are so intelligent that we are unbalanced in the instinct category, in my opinion. Yeah, I think our intelligence takes away from our instincts. You know, we find a way to ignore our instincts, but they're still there. I think we're just forgetting how to tap into them. Or we're learning a way to make them absolute, right? Through technology, where we don't need instincts anymore. Now everything we can mathematically prove scientifically with advanced technology and tools and things like that. Now, Stephanie Summerwell's father is a violent child sex offender, a self confessed child molester who admitted to showering with his daughter. Summerwell's father is violent child sex offender, a self confessed child molester who admitted to showering with his daughter. I think most fathers have showered with their daughters. When they're babies, you kind of have to. I've showered with my daughter when she was a baby. So that's how I cleaned her. So I don't know. That's weird to me to say something like that. And I didn't know he was a child sex offender. I didn't know he had confessed to being a child molester. I mean, that seems pretty significant. When did that happen? I don't know any parents who haven't showered with their children. Is that weird? If you're the only parent there, they need to be clean. What are you going to do? Just leave them out there while you're in the shower? I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Can't bit strange, but I can't see a 10-year-old using a Garrett. And then there's the very hard case. Yeah, there's the Garrett. That's the knot with the stick where you can twist it and it tightens. Then you have the letter. And I just don't see any parents saying, oh, we're going to cover up, this murder. If anything, they would know that nothing significant is going to happen to the son other than medical attention, maybe juvenile hall. He's not going to face life in prison if he did something like that, which there's absolutely no proof that he did. Danny B, I'm super late, so feel free to skip me if not relevant anymore. But I like the theory that aliens are us in the future time travel. I like that one too, Danny. That's why they're kind of like all skinny and maybe they're struggling to reproduce. Yeah, that's an interesting theory. Spaceships are just us from the future. I like it. There have been a lot more sightings in the sky as of late. What are they? Who are they? Exactly. We're going to talk about that. I think we'll save all that for the end of the stream. Mysterious drones, possibly fixed wing aircraft, were spotted flying over New Jersey yesterday. FBI reported. Yep, we have that. We're going to talk about that. We'll touch on that a bit. Delulu says, sounds familiar. Maybe dark web, chomo, criminal underworld, biker gang, Hells Angels killed JBR. Interesting. Yeah, like helicopters, copper. Helicopters, copper. Helicopter, horse. FAA told Fox News flight restrictions were in place following questionable drone activity. Yeah, I think over Trump's golf course, right? Jeanette, we had a girl go missing back in the 80s during our famous snake hunt. Apparently, she was last seen with some biker gang, leaving her young child behind. What the fuck? That's weird. Mental health, guys. Sometimes people just feel the need to run away. Yep, that's true, Copper. Never thought the brother did anything. He was only 8. Was he 8? He's like 8 or 9 years old. I don't understand. So the theory is that the brother hit Jean Benet with a flashlight or something, crushing her skull. I'm not saying that that's impossible or unlikely. I'm just saying, how did you get there? How do you go from sick person sneaking through the window to 9-year-old brother bashing in a child's head and then strangling them, or vice versa? I'm seriously curious how you got there. Hiawatha Jar's brother interviews make me suspicious. I didn't say I got there or that he was definitely guilty. Well, no, I'm saying you're saying Jar's brother's interviews make what makes it suspicious? That's what I'm asking you. How did you get there? How did you get to suspicious? Like what's suspicious about it? Spy cams, alien invasion, hoax, speculation about North Jersey drone, mystery runs wild. Maybe a mix of all of the above. But he also confessed essay his sisters. Who's that, Stephanie? We're going to be so scatterbrained. You guys need to put the context in the comment. So if you're referring to John Bonet or the Wells case, just put that in the comment so we know. Because sometimes I could be 5 minutes behind on the chat. The moon and Mars, to be specific. Now we try to go back and see signs of civilizations. Or hide them, right? Not weird at all when they are babies. Yeah. I don't know. That's just how, that's how I was raised. I'm pretty sure my parents showered with me when I was an infant. Have you been to places where they traffic kids? I live in Phoenix, one of the most trafficked cities in the world. Summers Wells' father said he's seen kids sold with his own eyes. That's interesting. Oh, we got a scrub report. 28 likes and 56 in the chat. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button. Go share the video too. Shane, if the aliens saw the Delphi case on YouTube, I bet they'd jump back in their ships and said, these people are too strange. Keep the planet. I agree. I mean, they wouldn't have to say anything. Just turn on the local news and they'd be like, fuck that. This place is crazy. Humans are nuts. Hiawatha, you hear stories of aliens having no mouths and others of the rubbing a substance on their skin for sustenance. Maybe they are us from the future. Yeah, that's a good theory. If you go to the Fire in the Sky movie, Travis Walton out of Flagstaff, Arizona, he says when he was abducted, he was basically placed into a placenta type ooze, right? That he could go to the restroom in it, he could eat it, he could drink it, he could just survive in it, kind of like you were in your mother's womb. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I agree. We're 1000% unable to tap into our instinct. We choose to ignore apparent signs of truths, alien politics, sports, food, illusions, freedom, all attributes to our distractions. Yeah, but I also feel like we're victims. I feel like people, they have this sacred knowledge about that because the mind you can easily fool the human mind. It's a tricky thing. And I think ancient knowledge and hidden knowledge about how to manipulate the masses, I think people are using that on the public to kind of dumb us down and keep us from our full potential. Anna, welcome in. John Bonet was tortured with the Garrett before a blow to her head. No way all that was a cover-up for an accident. I agree with that. I mean, we're dealing with a sick individual. If an accident happened, the most likely thing that would happen with the family would, take the child and put her somewhere and then report the cover-up. They're not going to create a letter. They're not going to leave evidence there. They're not, they would leave the window open and remove the child from the home. What's up, Necessary Evil? You should be. I think you should be suspicious of everything, even your own neighbors. Hey, what's up, Cindy? Religion, yeah, I'm not a big believer. I'm a strong Christian, but I don't believe in a religion at all. Cindy, we are all the aliens. That's what I'm saying, guys. We're literally aliens floating around on a rock in space, and we're building spaceships right now. As we speak, there are people flying all over this planet, and there might even be a few folks in space right now. So if anybody's an alien, it's us. If anybody's planning on invading another planet, it's us. Shane says, I've neglected the Summer Wells case. Very sad from what I know. Yeah, that's a tough case. It's a tough one. Anna says there is some new research that indicates humanity almost died out. At the same time, tremendous atmospheric things were happening, and 2 chromosomes joined, making modern humans. The Great Flood, maybe? The deluge? If you look at the pyramids, it kind of looks like only the tips were kind of sticking up out of the ocean at one point. And the only reason the pyramids are the only things left there is whoever created them, that's what they designed them for, not to move during the flood. Everything else was covered up in debris, soot. We're talking miles and miles of soot. There could be, well, just imagine our current cities being covered in miles of soot after a huge flood. That could have been for an ancient civilization as well. Atlantis. Yeah, such a good movie. Fire in the Sky. Cindy, you think that was fake? Definitely not fake. All those guys took lie detector tests. Travis Walton. He still does interviews. He did an interview with Joe Rogan, I think, like a year ago. Fabulous. You should go check it out. Good. You'll be safe down there. Aliens may be fallen angels. So I like aliens being us from the future and them being fallen angels. Those are my leading UFO theories. Or interdimensional. What's up, Brett? Good to see you, Charles. Oh, sorry to hear about your friend passing away, Cindy. Was really into John Bonet case, and now I think she got to meet her in heaven and knows what happened. Yeah, that case is still a big part of American culture. Just wondering what happened to John Bonet. Because if it can happen to John Bonet, it can happen to anybody. And it does. It happens often. Just a lot of these cases don't get any attention. What's up, Paradox? Anna says John Bonet's bedroom had a balcony. I think if they covered up a fatal head injury, she would have been found on the ground beneath the balcony, in my opinion. There would have been a million ways to cover it up that didn't involve wrapping a rope around her neck, some silly ransom note. I mean, we're talking about two intelligent adults here. We're not talking about two homeless crackheads. Jim, he's a Vulcan. We do have a Space Force and SpaceX, NASA. Oh, yeah. I think that's them getting ready to kind of tell us about the technologies they've been hiding. Area 51 and whatnot. Sorry to hear that, Hiawatha. The atmospheric crisis that almost ended humanity appears to have been massive volcanic eruptions, a huge asteroid landing in Asia, start of an ice age. Yeah, I mean, that all makes sense. That would cause the flood. That would explain everything. Because if you have like a huge explosion or a nuclear war, you're going to create what's referred to as nuclear winter. And that just basically blocks out the sun, covers the entire planet with soot and ash. And that could have easily caused the ice age. Makes sense to me. Yeah, I struggle with funerals. Really hard for me. Hey, She Warrior. Hope you're having a great day. Happy hump day. Hold it down. Don't let anybody bring you down. John Bonet's house was huge. Yeah, this thing was like a maze. 80 feet between her bedroom and brother's. Parents on the floor above. Security was lax overall. Lots of ways, opportunities for intruders to enter or even stay undetected. Yeah, and that's the part that kind of creeps me out. I get this vibe like somebody was in that house. Maybe even this was maybe their second. Definitely doesn't feel like their first time being in that home, right? If you can sit there and write a letter, or you try to write a letter, and you scratch that out, and then you finally write a secondary letter that you actually stick with. You got to have some kind of comfort in being in that home. First of all, you're writing a letter in a home that you don't belong in. Anybody can come home at any point. But it's as if this person knew exactly what was going on. He had some level of comfort just kind of hanging around that home. Yeah, me too, V. Anti-gravity. All right, we're going to get into, let me see how long these videos are. All right, this one's 2 minutes and 16 seconds, titled Progress Being Made in the JonBenet Ramsey Case. And law enforcement officials always seem to come out with something about cases after there's been like a big documentary, which is the importance of documentaries. Same with the Evansdale case. Max came out with a great 3-part series on the Evansdale case, and I mean, we got so much discussion going, right? Was generated about that case because of that documentary. And remember, tomorrow is the anniversary of when they were found too, so we might cover that case. See if we can get Drew Collins up here. Oh, might help if I share my screen here.
Investigators re-examining the JonBenet Ramsey case. The 6-year-old booty queen died in her Colorado home the day after Christmas in 1996. Now a team of experts are going through evidence looking for answers in the case's remaining mysteries. ABC's Alex Stone joins me now for more. Alex, this was a case that captivated the nation then and now, really. It's captured the nation for decades because we never got an answer here. So what can you tell us about the evidence experts are sifting through now?
Well, this is mainly DNA evidence, and its DNA evidence has been known for a very long time. That was in JonBenet's underwear that they have looked at. They have tried to match over many, many years to any male. They know it is a white male, but they have never been able to identify whose DNA that was in her underwear. There have been a number of people, John Mark Carr, you may remember that name, in 2006, who have come forward claiming that they killed JonBenet Ramsey, but it was a DNA that then led police to say, no, that they made it up. So it's really looking at that DNA, looking at new technology, genealogy that has been used to solve so many cold cases, and to see if they can do it, but they don't know.
Could new DNA technology lead to an arrest here? Do they feel like they can finally get those answers they haven't been able to get in the past from that, Alex?
The potential is there, but Diane, our sources are telling us while progress is being made, they don't know if they're ever going to find a suspect. We're almost 30 years in now, 28 years in. Even if they do, is that person alive any longer? If they could identify who it was. This was degraded DNA that was in her underwear, and they have never been able to really track it down and really be able to decipher who it belongs to. Now, again, using the technology that a number of cold cases have been able to use in recent years through genealogy, maybe they'll be able to find somebody. Our sources are saying they just don't know. They are making progress.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that the fact that they found DNA, like they don't know if the DNA, who it belongs to. So why would that keep them from believing somebody like John Mark Carr? Like he admitted it, he kind of explained it. The way he explained it makes sense. They're like, no, you made it up because the DNA doesn't match. The DNA inside the underwear. But they don't know who the DNA belongs to, how it got there. So how do they know that that's the killer's DNA? You know what I mean? And then also, Hiawatha, I did hear that. Would it say booty queen or something like that? Yeah, I kind of chuckled.
There is that multidisciplinary team that you mentioned with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation and Boulder Police that they have been trying to go through the evidence again, digitize what evidence that they do have. But when it comes to DNA, they are hopeful, we are told. But if it will actually lead to somebody after 28 years, they don't know.
All right, ABC investigators re-examining the
And the reality is that really for 28 years, ma'am, this case has gone nowhere. And the reason why it has gone nowhere is because we continue to try and fit a square object in a round hole, and that is the Ramsey family, right?
See, I agree with this guy 100% here.
The narrative has been since day one that it had to be either John or Patsy, or heaven forbid, we even have people that at one point believed that Burke Ramsey was responsible for the murder of his sister. I mean, this case has literally just been locked in on the Ramsey family. So to hear that, we're around the corner and we're close to getting, this case being solved, I think it's just a way to hold off, right, while the case is getting attention again. Because for 28 years, we really have gone nowhere with this. It's always been, the Ramsey family, and they've been hiding behind, their attorneys or hiding behind whoever. And the reality is that we have never really looked at the evidence in the case. And that's the danger in this, is that investigators have not investigated.
I agree with this guy 100%. They haven't investigated. They kind of got, what do they call it? Put on the blinders right from the beginning. For instance, let's go to, I don't know if you guys watched the documentary that was just put out recently, and that's why there's all this talk about the John Benet Ramsey case. But here's part of an article. John Benet Ramsey mock trial by Geraldo Rivera. Now, they show a big chunk of this mock trial during the documentary, and it was extremely, I don't know, I guess offensive to watch this mock trial and to see how the family was reacting to it. It was kind of disgusting. But yesterday, Geraldo Rivera actually apologized for the first time to John Ramsey. It says here, the documentary features clips from the defunct daytime talk show, The Geraldo Rivera Show, where the eponymous host conducted a mock trial about the Ramseys' culpability of their daughter's death. His jury found the parents liable, which sent Patsy Ramsey to bed for about 2 days because she was so mortified, she said in a previously recorded interview. During the show, a child abuse expert, this is the part that upset me the most, the child abuse expert. These experts are anything but experts ever, right? Child abuse expert also posited that she believed John Benet Ramsey had been sexually stimulated. Now, the reason that she thought that, she was referencing a video of the child playing a saxophone as masturbation. This is what the experts are saying. Now, let me show you the video that she's referring to. Now, this was disgusting. They were saying this on live television during the mock trial, and they were basing it off some really fucked up shit that didn't make any sense at all.
It's the haunting last video of little John Benet Ramsey singing Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. The date is December 22nd, 1996, just 3 days before she was brutally murdered. She's performing at a local mall where she plays a toy saxophone and gets a warm round of applause from the shoppers. Tragically.
Okay, so did you see that? So this part where she's playing the saxophone, you have this so-called expert on the Geraldo Rivera Show, while they're doing a mock trial, convicting the parents of murder with absolutely no proof, saying that this is sexual in nature.
Performing at a local mall where she plays a toy saxophone and gets a warm round of applause from the shoppers.
Now, if that doesn't anger you, I don't know if anything really ever will. Because that's disgusting.
About where your head was when you did that mock trial and where you are today.
Well, mock trials and moot courts, as you know, Chris, are not
Geraldo is a
that
bitch.
unprecedented. They're not that extraordinary. And I'll get to the conclusion they reached in a second, but let me just say to John Ramsey that I deeply apologize to you for what you and your family have suffered, how you have lost your wife to cancer, one child to that terrible car crash, and of course what happened to John Bonet, 6 years old, who would now be 34 years old, which is an incredible fact, how long this case has been front row center in the American consciousness. So when I say I am sorry, I don't apologize for my reporting.
He's sorry, but he's not
believe
sorry.
that at least half the reporters and half the nation believe that the shadow of suspicion, half the Boulder Police Department, at least those who have not retired or those who have retired because of this case, believe it. But I don't know what happened. I just want you to know that I lament contributing to the hurt that you have endured. I don't think no one deserves to go through what you went through. That's my bottom line. About where your head was when you did that mock trial and where you are today.
Apologizing. He's not really apologizing for the mock trial. He's just apologizing for everything that he went through. Anna says, keep in mind, John Bonet's brother sued CBS and won. Time to stop discussing him. I don't know how it ever started. Right? Just because you can't find the killer, you got to start blaming all the people that were around. You've concluded your investigation, so now it's time to start pointing fingers at the family. Well, the problem with the investigation is they never stopped. And if you can't prove it, you shouldn't get tunnel vision, right? Stephanie says, did y'all know the man who played Santa at the Ramseys, his own daughter was abducted 22 years earlier? That's interesting. Remember that video of her playing that saxophone was just, I think, 3 days before her murder. That was the last video she was ever in. Yeah, you're right, CJK. I feel like they weren't prepared for this kind of an investigation, kind of like Delphi. They just weren't prepared. Found on multiple garments in multiple spots, even on garments that had been previously worn and washed. See, that's strange. And I do believe that maybe there was multiple assailants. Maybe you had somebody creeping in at night, you know, going through her clothing, doing a bunch of weird shit in her room, and then maybe told another predator, like, yeah, you can just walk into the house, you go in through the, you know, through the basement, and you can gain access that way. Or maybe they didn't even communicate. They just both knew, you know, by stalking this young girl, going to these pageants and being a pedophile predator. Could be multiple people targeting her. You got one guy that's touching all of her clothing in the middle of the night, and then another guy that walks in and actually commits the murder, unconnected to this other person. So I find it weird that they're using the DNA to completely remove this, to remove Carr. I always thought that's the guy. You know, if anybody did it, it's him. He talks about how he was going to write a ransom note in one way, changed his mind, and decided to go another route. And the evidence supports that. Everything that he stated, the evidence backs up. The only thing that doesn't is the DNA. So I just don't know how that's going to exclude him as a suspect. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know if he knew the family, but she was. It was just a few days before her murder that she interacted with this Santa. The wooden nickels. CJK says Santa was cleared, but it makes you question it for sure. Yeah, I don't think anybody can be cleared because if we know anything, investigations get it wrong all the time. They cleared John Mark Carr, one of the most suspicious people I've ever seen in my entire life. He had motive, he had opportunity, and he had information that only the killer would know. Well, I doubt that because of how public the case was, but his account of what took place matched with the evidence to a T. So it's very strange. Like, how is he cleared? How is the number one suspect cleared? John Bonet's parents had built a business in their garage, which was bought by Lockheed Sudden Wealth. They were unprepared, never considered security needs. Yeah, if you live in a neighborhood like that, I mean, you never had your car broken into, or your neighbors never told you, hey, we had a prowler. You're really not going to be too concerned. This is where you feel like you've earned that. I've gotten to a point in my life where I don't have to worry about security. But in a lot of cases, these predators will target these neighborhoods. We covered a case recently where this sick dude in Washington was targeting really upscale neighborhoods, and he was able to just walk right into homes. I mean, he walked into a few different homes in one night. This guy was known for kidnapping children, kidnapping adults in broad daylight. I mean, he picked up a woman at a store, just picked her up. She was walking with her friend. He scooped her up off her feet and started running towards his vehicle. And we're not talking about a little kid here. We're talking about a grown woman. Well, this same gentleman was in Washington just going into people's homes in an upscale neighborhood. And nobody had their back doors locked. He would hop the fence and just walk right in and watch people sleep. To me, that's what we're dealing with John Bonet. Somebody similar to that. Somebody who cannot control themselves. They kind of get off on it. They're inside this house and their adrenaline is just kicking in, and they're just getting off on it. On the fact that even if they are caught, they're just going to run away, or they might commit a murder. It's like anything can happen. These people, they love that. They're getting off on it. I mean, they have to. What else is going to cause somebody in the middle of the night to sneak into a stranger's house and kind of spy on their kids or plot a kidnapping? It's got to be somebody like that. Some kind of uncontrollable urge. That's interesting, Anna. I didn't know that. Geraldo was always about the ratings. Remember the opening of AI Al Capone's safe? Yeah, I don't like Geraldo Rivera. Dude is a fucking weirdo. It's like, how can you be a newsman for so long and still be so fucking stupid? Yeah, definitely half. It wasn't even an apology. Like, I'm sorry that, you've had all this trouble in your life. But as far as the mock trial, I won't apologize for that. Yeah, he knew how shitty he looked on that documentary. It pissed me off. Anna says, anyone who believes the family is guilty, you have to believe the family tortured her for hours. Meanwhile, a pilot was standing by for an early morning flight to Michigan and a second Christmas. Yeah, you should be accepting any help, any and all. Santa's wife had also written a play about a girl being abducted into a basement. Lots of coincidences. Santa was not well enough to do the crime. The Santa theory. Interesting. There could have been 100 pedos in that mall with the plan. Yep. Neighbors. You could have neighbors. Somebody that lives close by. A friend of the family. What's up, Humanimal? Was noting Boulder. HW was noting Boulder at the time. What's that mean? Creepy crawling was not invented by the Manson family. Actually, kids were doing that when I was a teen in a small town, entering homes, moving furniture, and taking stuff. Trying to drive people crazy. Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing. Interesting. Had to know the family because of the note, the exact Christmas bonus figure of 118. Yeah, that's true, Shane. But I also feel like this person could have been rummaging through their mail. Could have found that information like in an office, maybe. Maybe even worked with him. Maybe even spoken with him about that. Yeah, too bad they didn't investigate it. Too bad they got too focused in on the family. And I understand being focused in on the family. Of course, you should exclude them early on, if possible, clear them, so to speak. But just because you can't clear them doesn't mean that they did it, right? They dropped the ball, in my opinion. Anna says, if anything, John Bonet's parents were too innocent, believing if they lived good lives, they wouldn't be victims. They did none of the things the ultra-rich commonly do. I just don't feel like, I don't know, DNA, I don't know, it's just not as compelling as we always thought it was. I mean, think about the Delphi case and the majority, 90% of murder scenes lack the killer's DNA being present. We're talking less than 10%. So why is it that you have random DNA and it's not, I don't know if it's seminal or not. You know, that would be different if there was some type of seminal DNA at a crime scene. That's different, right? That shows that whoever was near John Bonet was secreting, which is definitely more compelling than just some kind of unknown male profile being found. Whether it's all over the place on multiple pieces of clothing, I just don't see how that could include or exclude any suspects unless it was seminal. Because, you know, that tells a whole different story. Anna says, intruder may have seen the check stub in the office, in the home. Otherwise, the bonus wasn't exactly a secret. Lots of people worked in and on the home. Yeah, so if you're making yourself comfortable in that home, I think it would be easy to find out that information. To me, the ransom note always made a lot of sense. A loser or two who hated the rich could have thought the bonus was like petty cash for a rich man, just open the wallet. I don't know. None of it makes sense. V says, was there ever a satanic panic linked to the case? Seems about the right time, maybe a bit later. Just want to make sure the Odinists are clear. Of course, the Odinists are never clear. You know, there were, I'm sure there were runes somewhere around. Somewhere in the basement. There you go. So that kind of fits in with the suspect making themselves feel at home, right? They're walking throughout the house. It's not the first time they've been there. They know where the family is when they're coming home. I don't know. I could see some of these predators kind of hiding while the family's there, kind of watching them, playing cat and mouse, walking throughout the house, getting off on the fact that they could get caught at any moment. And John Bonet being the main reason that they're there. There you go. All you got to do is squint a little bit and you'll see the runes. Ridiculous. Yeah, I think the letter is going to be the key to solving that crime. So if there's no connection to the parents, I think I think it's leading us to a unorganized killer. Somebody making a series of bad decisions, one after the other, thinking that they're really smart, but they're not, which is the profile for most of these predators, right? They think they can outsmart everybody. They're disorganized, but they're better at cleaning up the mess than they are at planning the crime. Well, at least in their mind. They take this proactive approach, maybe even getting involved in steering the narrative in some way or the other. So the evidence is going to point at the suspect, but it's going to be hard to know the motivation until you find the killer, right? What was motivating you? In a lot of cases, the killer will say, well, I don't know. I was going through a series of stressors. I know that I suffer from a personality disorder. It's that recipe for disaster. The Richard Allen effect. Tom says, my number one question is, how did no one in the home hear anything? A scream, a ruckus, anything at all? I get it's a big home, but not that big. I don't know. Maybe there wasn't a scream. You wake up as a child. Kids are very sleepy. I think that's how a lot of these kidnappings happen. For the most part, right? The assailant sneaks into the home, picks the child up out of the bed, and the child's kind of like in a dreamlike state. Like, oh, that's my parent. And they just feel like they're in the arms of somebody they can trust. So they just kind of fall asleep. Like, that reminds me of the Madeleine McCann case. I think we'll talk about that on one of these episodes. I'm just learning more about it, but that's what that reminds me. Madeleine McCann just getting picked up in the middle of the night, and instead of screaming and panicking, she just thinks she's with her dad or her mother and goes right back to sleep on the assailant's arm as he's leaving the area. So he could have been taking her downstairs, and she's just passed right back out on this person's shoulder, and then he just wraps something around her neck to where she can't scream. Whoever did the crime broke a wooden paintbrush handle for his purposes. Yeah, that's what he used for Garrett. That was the piece of wood that he used. So we're dealing with somebody who's not who didn't plan this, right? They didn't bring their own rope. They didn't bring their own piece of wood. They were coming up with these ideas on the fly. Or they've done it before and they knew that they could find what they needed in the home. Stephanie says, Tom, a neighbor did hear a scream allegedly. Tom J. John Bonet was disabled in her bedroom. Stun gun looks very possible. That's what one of the investigators said, stun gun. Otherwise, distances in the house were huge, 80 feet down from the halls. Paintbrush tells a tale, rare breed. Humanimal says, Dear Lord, you'll be an apologist for the McCanns as well. Jerry McCann was the Smith sighting. How do you know this, Humanimal? If you know it, the case would be solved, right? So nobody's apologizing to anybody. And just because somebody doesn't agree with you doesn't mean that they're an apologist or they believe one thing or the other. So take it easy. And it says Tom N., the only one close enough to hear anything was the brother, 80 feet down the hall, parents' room upstairs from that, and a third, fourth floor. And when you're passed out asleep and there's somebody screaming in the basement, I mean, how? I don't know how that's supposed to wake you up. Anna says, I wouldn't waste my time on the McCann case. Well, it's very interesting because it's, it follows the same narrative. Parents wanting to go do adult things while they still have children. Who's watching the children? Oh, well, we'll check on them. It's just like the baby Lisa case. I don't know if you guys remember the baby Lisa case. We covered that in True Crime in the Morning. The baby Lisa case, the father worked the midnight shift. So he's gone. He leaves very early, middle of the night. He's gone to work. Mother is getting trashed on wine, on a box of wine next door. She has the baby monitor and then goes home, checks on the kids, goes to sleep. Father comes home and the baby's gone. And everybody said, well, the mother came home drunk. She must have picked up the baby and then a horrible accident happened, right? But if the mother wasn't drunk, nobody would ever say any of that. So the mother could come home drunk, go to bed, and have done nothing. And then nobody would have accused her. But the fact that she was next door drinking when she should have been taking care of her kids, right? Because of that one bad thing, now people want to convict her as a murderer. Is she a bad mother? Most likely, yes, right? She made a horrible mistake. Hindsight is 20/20, but that doesn't make her a killer. There has to be proof. There has to be evidence that that's what took place. Doesn't make me an apologist, right? Tom says, if it's a stranger, that kid would know, in my opinion. Maybe this is what I was getting at about humans not having instincts. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I remember there being a lot of talk about the housekeeper, maybe even being motivated, having, what was it, the husband who may have been responsible. Anna says the McCanns and their friends, at minimum, took way too much risks in a tourist place they were only visiting. Exactly. So does it make them bad parents? Yeah, probably does. You're out getting fucked up with your friends and you just leave a bunch of kids alone in an unlocked room. Yeah, that makes you a shitty parent. Does that make you a killer or a kidnapper? Maybe, maybe not. Think the same goes for the baby Lisa case, for the McCann case. Being a bad parent doesn't make you a kidnapper, but it does mean that you may have helped facilitate a kidnapping without knowing it. Tom says, if the neighbor heard a scream, then how in the fuck did the parents not hear? I sleep light, so maybe I cannot relate. Well, think about it. If the killing or the screaming took place in the basement, you have a window that's open in the basement, and the sound is going to be able to escape. Now you're going to be able to hear that through a window, going out of a window, and then through your window, right? But now traveling through floors in a home, when you have your doors shut, you got hallways, the sound has to travel all the way to you. So it is more likely that you're going to hear the sound as a neighbor if somebody's screaming through an open window than if you were in a basement in one of the upstairs bedrooms. I think you would be able to hear it outside as opposed to in the home. That's my opinion. Shane says, I saw a blanket on the floor. He spent time hurting her. Why write a letter? Case is a total mind game. The only thing I could think of about the letter is that the killer thought, well, they're not going to find her. They won't call the cops and they won't look in the basement. And I think there's a chance that I could get this money before they find out about what I've done. You have to look at it through the eyes of a madman. What was this crazy child predator thinking? Was he drunk? Was he high on drugs? Was he having a mental health episode? There may not be any rhyme or reason to what the hell this person was thinking. What's up, Charlotte? Anna says there's a chance an intruder hid in a guest bedroom near John Bonet's bedroom, may have been there when the family returned. Could have been under her bed, for all we know. Could have been hiding in the closet. Could have been with the Stephen McDaniel case. He stalked his victim for months. Went to school with this person. And the reason that he killed her was because she woke up and caught him. So to me, that's what causes most of these murders. Shame, not wanting to be caught. So we could be dealing with a stalker, and John Bonet wakes up. Maybe he was up hovering over her, and when she woke up, he covered her mouth and then took her down to the basement. I think that's what happened with the Delphi case. You have this guy, he's drunk, he's high, he's going through some mental health issues. Deep down, he's a sick predator. He has this uncontrollable urge, sees Abby and Libby, can't resist, commits what he thinks is going to be a sexual assault. When that all falls apart, at this point, he realizes, I can't let you go. So I think a lot of these murders happen that way. These sick pedophiles, they have these fantasies and these uncontrollable urges. And then once they go through with these urges, they panic and then they kill the victims, which is terrifying. It's not like a serial killer where they're out there and they're plotting and they're planning and they know they're going to commit a murder. I think this is even harder to solve because there's no rhyme or reason. It's just some mentally deranged person trying to fulfill some sick fantasy, and the murder just comes as a byproduct. Manna says the scream heard by a neighbor was in a direct line from the basement opening, conduit, or something. Yeah, that makes more sense to me. I think you'd be more likely to hear it through your window if the sound has a clear path. But if you're upstairs in an upstairs bedroom, the sound would have to travel through all those layers, the flooring, the hallways to get up to you. So it makes more sense that you would hear it as a neighbor if there was an open window or a direct path for the sound to travel. What about Charlotte's Web? Yep, that could be a motive for sure. Now you're starting to think like a deranged madman. And that's what you kind of have to do. You have to put yourself in the shoes of an absolute maniac. And inside the mind of a maniac, it's pure chaos, right? Sexual sadism, psychopathy, different personality disorders, maybe trauma as a child, evil thoughts, anger, uncontrollable rage, disgusting fantasies about violence and sexual assault. You know, normal people, they wake up and they're thinking, okay, I got to go achieve my goals that I set out for today. I'm going to make my coffee. I'm going to have breakfast, take care of the kids, take care of the wife. I got to go do this. I got to make sure I take care of these things before Friday. But no, sexual sadist, child predator, or killer, they wake up and it's just pure rage. Probably woken up in a sweat from having bad nightmares from trauma as a child. Mixed in with not taking medication, watching violent movies and things online, and searching the dark web. They're definitely not living a normal life. It's violence, it's rage, Satanism, murder, just feeding all of those negative impulses. Tom says, I think it was an accident, then drawn out into a layered scheme and mystery. I could be wrong, but it seems that this would be the only scenario, in my opinion, that holds water. So I don't know any accidents that involve the crushing of a child's skull and wrapping a garrote around their neck. And I mean, the garrote was so tight that you couldn't even really see it. The father, according to the father, he didn't even notice it at first. Tom says, seriously, what perp is going to sit down and write a letter with paper and pen from within the home? Well, what kind of perp is going to be in the home? What kind of perp is going to snatch a small child from an upstairs bedroom and bring him into the basement? I mean, you can't think like a normal person here. You have to put your eyes through the mind of madness. You got to look through the eyes of complete insanity. Things aren't going to make a whole lot of sense when you're looking through those eyes. Or else they wouldn't be doing those things, right? First of all, what would cause a man to enter a home that isn't his? Already there's madness there, So you're asking about a letter? Let's start there. What would cause somebody to do that? That's 100 times more strange than writing some weird letter, right? What are you doing in that home to begin with? What are you doing now with a child in your hands? What are you doing now wrapping this thing around a child's neck? So I'm less concerned about what would cause them to write a letter, because anybody that would do any of that could do that letter and a lot more weird shit, right? That wouldn't make sense. So we got to start with entering that home that doesn't belong to you and attacking a child. We have to start there. Anybody that could do that could write that letter, in my opinion. That, I don't know the exact time of the 911 call. What's up, Rightfield? Appearances meant everything to the family. If John Bonet died accidentally, in my opinion, no way she'd be left in mismatched clothing on a dirty basement floor. Yeah, her sheet was soiled, so somebody scared her that night. One of the lead investigators believed that she was tased. I don't know how much evidence there is to lead that, but I do believe her bed was soiled. That means that either she was terrified of something happened in that bedroom, and that if that was her parents, So the kidnapping, I think, initiated there, right? The bed was soiled because the kidnapper or the perpetrator was present in that room, and she awoke. She was awakened to this this predator, most likely covering her mouth, and she soiled the bed. So it makes sense. And then they go right down to the basement. So I think that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a stalker, somebody that likes to creep around the home, watch the parents sleep, maybe dig through the clothing. Hey, Boston. Yeah, I mean, it takes a real sick freak, something, whatever is possessing somebody to enter into a stranger's home to watch them sleep. I mean, we're talking about a very dangerous person. Just to make that leap from being an everyday citizen, now you're inside a stranger's home and you're creeping around and you're getting off, on it, off on the adrenaline, on the forbiddenness of it all, right? So just to do that, I think you're capable of murder. If you're able to enter into a stranger's home in the middle of the night while they're still there, you know that murder is on the table. Yeah, these are blue blockers. They help a lot. Yeah, I don't wear glasses. I have pretty good vision. I don't know if it's perfect, but I haven't tested in a long time ago. I used to have 20/20 vision or 2019, something like that. But yeah, these are just for the computer screens. They work great. During the documentary, the one of the investigators states that it was in fact soiled, and that's why they believe that a taser was used. There were some markings on John Benet that were consistent with the taser, and also that combined with the fact that the bed was soiled. So that's the information that I'm getting from the documentary and from one of the main investigators, one of the original investigators, is coming right out of their mouth. Yeah, and a lot of homeless people are suffering from mental health issues, and definitely whoever did this to John Bonet was definitely not right in the head. And they may not be afraid to enter in somebody's home. Homeless people a lot of times are dealing with drug addiction. Drug addiction leads to theft, breaking and entering. Could have something to do with the disorganization of it and the monetary motive there, right? With the letter. Hey, Patty, I think he stalked John Bonet, probably followed her from beauty pageant and just waited for the perfect time for him. Yeah. And this may have been the second, third, fourth, fifth time they were in the home. And each time it progresses. They push it, maybe the first time the person crept in the home and nobody was there. Second time, creeps in there when they are home. Third time, creeps in and then commits a murder. It just keeps evolving into something much, much worse. Pushing the boundaries. I feel like that's what I think that's the profile for these types of killers. Pushing the boundary. Okay, guys. we're going to transition now into the Hannah Kobayashi case. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up with this. We did a live stream on it. I was looking into something, a possible sighting of her when the presser broke. Perps would be on an extreme sense of urgency to get out of that house, in my opinion. Why would they only harm John Bonet? Why did they not bring anything with them as far as weapons, rope, pen, paper, plastic? I don't know. I feel like you're trying to make sense of something senseless. You know, you're trying to put logic. There's nothing logical. The fact that they entered into the stranger's home means that this person is not dealing with logic. They're dealing with compulsion, not logic. Everything else is a byproduct of this compulsion. I had breakfast. I'm good. And I'm enjoying my coffee. You got it, Mustang. Thanks for hanging out and having a true crime discussion. Or an anything and everything discussion. Had a little dog that was staying with the neighbor because the family was leaving for a trip the next day. That sounds good. Some beef stew. I think he had been in their house before, as a bad man entered my house, had been in my house probably 5 days in my closet. What the? Crawl space. I'm sure he was coming in bedrooms at night. Cowardly, sick freak. I think you're right, Boston. If you guys go look at the Stephen McDaniel case, I mean, this guy, he had a key to the victim's home. He was a maintenance guy at her apartment. He videotaped her with one of those large VHS camcorders through her window, would go in and watch her sleep. The day that he murdered her, she just happened to wake up. You know, he was just standing there hovering over her. And she woke up like, what the fuck are you doing? And he panicked, jumped on top of her, and strangled her. And then dismembered her body. And in the morning, he came forward. He saw the news media, and he came and gave a statement to the news. He did an interview right then and there to help control the narrative. People would ask, well, why would a killer go in front of the news camera? Why would he kill somebody? Why would he be stalking somebody? And why would he be in their apartment while they're sleeping? There is no logical reason, because these people are not operating under logic. They're operating under compulsion and sick fantasies and personality disorders. That's what's fueling them. Not to mention they get off on the forbiddenness of it all, the adrenaline. You know, it's like a drug. And then one bad decision after the other leads to a horrible case, like the Ramsey case. Hi, Walt. This is Hannah's family in Hawaii is pissed about that presser. She was supposed to go see family in New York, and they believe something has happened to her. To me, I believe that the whole, you know, I got a press pass, I'm going to go do a paying gig for some famous DJ in New York, was just a ruse. I think she was suffering from a mental health issue. And just like Aiden Clune, just like Daniel Robinson, just like a lot of these people who go missing, I think she wanted to go missing. She just wanted to get to the States. So let me go to my updates here. So I was looking at a possible sighting of Hannah when the news broke. But this was the sighting. This would have been on Venice Beach. The day she supposedly was in, I think this was the night or the morning of the 12th. So she would be in Mexico the day after this. and I'm not saying this is her at all. I don't think this is her, but this is something that I was looking at before the presser was released. Now, this is a camera, a live feed for Venice Beach, and you'll see who they're saying is Hannah come up out of the left bottom corner of the screen. Now, if you listen carefully as well, you can hear somebody say the name Hannah. Oops, sorry, I don't think that's the right video. Oh, here it is. Now, I don't know if this is her or not. It doesn't look like her, but it could be. I don't know. This person looks too skinny. So she's seen there. And then again here. Definitely not wearing the same Nike shoes. This person's wearing like slippers. So while I was looking into this, and then also you can hear this where they says you can hear the name Hannah. I'll turn this up. Can you hear that? Hannah. Sounds like maybe like with a Mexican accent. Hannah. So I don't know what's going on with that, but here is her. I think this would be on the 11th. Buying a ticket, a bus ticket into Mexico. I just don't think you can miss those shoes. And she's always has this luggage here. So she's not going anywhere without this luggage. But my only question is, what happened to her dad, Ryan? You know, could she possibly be involved in that, you guys, you think? Or did he just find out that she was, you know, running away from everybody and that she didn't want to be found? You think that was just too overwhelming for him? To me, that's the biggest mystery of all of this. What happened to Ryan? Jeez, Boston, that's terrifying. And anybody that can do that, I believe, is a killer. Anybody that can creep into a stranger's home while they're there, sleeping, is capable of murder. Because they're dealing with a compulsion, something that they cannot control. Normal people don't just say, "Oh, I'm going to go in and I'm going to spy on this person." They don't. That's what killers say. That's what motivates killers. Underwear thieves, peeping toms used to be considered harmless, but like a panty raid. My friend, a prosecutor, said they are very dangerous because they do not recognize boundaries, no boundaries. There you go. And that's the point I'm making. You've already crossed that line. You get off on crossing the line. So what's the ultimate line to cross? Murder. They get off on crossing those lines. It's a good way to put it. Yeah, so let's watch. Let me read an article. We'll look at the new timeline, and then we'll listen to the presser, law enforcement. They believe that they know for a fact that she's in Mexico. Question is, why? Why is she in Mexico? What is she doing in the States? What is she running from? And what happened to her father? You know, there's been it's not just that she's missing. A lot has happened since then. Let's see. Hana Kobayashi, the Hawaii woman who had been believed to be missing in Los Angeles, crossed the border into Mexico on her own accord 4 days after landing in LAX and is not the victim of any crime, the LAPD said on Monday. To date, the investigation has not uncovered any evidence that Kobayashi is being trafficked or is the victim of any foul play, LAPD Chief Jim McDonald said. Detectives reviewed her social media accounts and found a desire to step away from modern connectivity, he added. The investigation discovered that while Kobayashi initially checked her bag through to New York, she later instructed it be sent to her at LAX. So I think she was just happy to be in the States, you know. Well, I'm in LA. What's the difference between LA and New York? At least here I can go into Mexico. You know, a lot of people desire to go to Mexico. I don't. She later used her passport and cash to buy a bus ticket at Union Station to travel to Yan Cedro border crossing, where she entered Mexico via tunnel on foot at 12:13 p.m. on November 12th. Remember, she was last spotted at the train station on November 11th. LAPD has not pursued the investigation further into Mexico because it appears she is not the victim of any crime. If she returns to the United States, law enforcement will be notified. We've basically done everything that we can do at this point, McDonald said. She left the country and in another nation now. It is believed she does not have her phone with her. McConnell urged her to contact her family or the nearest U.S. embassy to provide assurance she is safe. Now, remember, folks, typically who are suffering from psychosis, they leave their phone. They leave their phone. They leave their purse. They don't want any connection to this constricting way of life, right? They need freedom. They want to be free from everything. She has a right to privacy and we respect her choices, McDonald said, but we also understand the concern her loved ones have for her. Kobayashi flew from Maui to LAX on November 8 and was supposed to catch a connecting flight to New York a short time later, but she missed the flight. After a few cryptic text messages, lost contact with her family within a few days. Family members have traveled to Los Angeles to search for her. Last weekend in a parking lot, LAX, the medical examiner determined the cause of death to be self-harm to her father, Ryan Kobayashi. So that's who I'm concerned about. What really happened to Ryan? Is it possible that she had anything to do with this? Or did he come in contact with her and she said, well, I'm not lost, Dad. You know, I'm going through a hard time. I'm suffering from it and I don't need any help from you. I'm going to find my own way. Did that just utterly break his heart? Did he make contact with her? Did something bad happen when he made contact with her? I just don't understand what happened to Ryan. What's your opinion about all of that? It just doesn't make, that's the part that doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah, I don't like that at all, right, Phil? Especially if she's going through it. And all of the cases that I've covered that appear to be psychosis, It's like a month time frame. It takes 1 month before you're full blown just disconnected from reality. It starts with trouble at work. You lose your job. You want to see counseling. Your personal relationships are failing, and you're seeking help. Like, I need help. I don't know what's going on. I'm hearing voices. I'm hallucinating. I need some serious help. Next thing you know, this person's starts a new job, and then the first day of the new job, they wander off. They strip down completely naked. They leave their car, they leave their phone, they leave everything that connects them to civilization. They want nothing to do with it. So it's a very scary situation, especially if it's somebody that you care about a whole lot. There's just no rhyme or reason for it. All right, let's watch this press conference. This kind of explains it all, but I'm still really curious as to what happened to her father, Ryan.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being here today with us. I'm joined here today by Assistant Chief Chow, Deputy Chief Alan Hamilton, and Lieutenant Oldfield from our Missing Persons Unit. I wanted to provide you an update on the ongoing search for 30-year-old Hana Kobayashi, who was reported missing last month. As the family is aware, late yesterday, after traveling to the U.S.-Mexico border, we reviewed video surveillance from U.S. Customs and Border Protection, which clearly shows Kobayashi crossing the United States border on foot into Mexico. She was alone with her luggage and appeared unharmed. At this time, Kobayashi's case has been classified as a voluntary missing person. I know over the last few days, there have been several questions raised surrounding her flight to New York. Our investigation, corroborated by video evidence, clearly shows Hannah at LAX appearing unharmed after arriving from Maui on November 8th of this year. For unknown reasons, she decided not to board her pre-scheduled flight to New York that same day. From November 8th to 11th, video footage and still imagery showed Hannah at various locations around Los Angeles. This information was subsequently verified by LAPD detectives. While she did check her bag through to New York, she requested her bag be sent to her at LAX, where we have surveillance footage of her retrieving it from the baggage carousel on November 11th. LAPD Missing Persons Unit has conducted extensive witness interviews, reviewed video surveillance, and collaborated with local and federal law enforcement agencies on this case. To date, the investigation has not uncovered any evidence that Kobayashi is being trafficked or is the victim of foul play. She is also not a suspect in any criminal activity. Additionally, the investigators noted that before departing Maui, Kobayashi expressed the desire to step away from modern connectivity. Our priority is ensuring Ms. Kobayashi's...
Let's look at something real quick that I think he's referring to. So there were some text messages that weren't released to the public originally, because they kind of fed into a different narrative. Here's one of those. This looks all blurry for some reason. I just know I need to go something in the Redwoods. She wanted to go to the Redwoods. It's been really scary. This person says, hold on, I'm going to call you. Let me see who I can reach out to in LA, in the LA area. You have no money? She says, I have a little left. I want to just get a bus or whatever straight to the Redwoods. So this sounds a lot like psychosis. This is what it looks like in its early stages from what I've seen in the Redwoods. Gonna look for work, but I haven't slept well for days. Please keep this to yourself for now and be discreet. I'm at LAX. Yeah, girl, just stay there for a bit. I might go to a homeless shelter. You should go back to Maui. She didn't want to go back to Maui.
Safety and...
Also, hold on. I think there's one more. They keep talking about her social media. So I did kind of document her Facebook. See if there's anything in there. Okay, so the last post on here was November 20th, 2022. So maybe they're referring to Instagram. But it does say something here. It says attachment is the root of all suffering. Yet we are all divinely interconnected, all having the ability to love, to hurt. So attachment, that's another thing I've noticed with psychosis is you feel like you want to cut any attachment to technology, to civilization, and then that's why a lot of these folks end up just living with homeless people. That's what's driving them to become homeless is the inability, to keep a job, to keep relationships, to accept help. It seems like anybody that's trying to help somebody suffering from psychosis, it just makes it worse because they feel like they're a burden on others.
Well-being, and we urge Ms. Kobayashi to contact her family, law enforcement, or personnel at the U.S. Embassy to let us know that she is safe. She has a right to her privacy, and we respect her choices, but we also understand that the concern her loved ones feel for her. A simple message could reassure those who care about her. While the LAPD investigation will not continue into Mexico, if anyone has credible information about Hannah's whereabouts, please contact local law enforcement. If Kobayashi returns to the United States, law enforcement will be notified. The missing person case will remain active in the missing and unidentified persons system until her safety is confirmed by law enforcement. Anyone with additional information regarding this case may contact the Los Angeles Police Department at 877-LAPD-24/7 or 877-527-3247. Anonymous tips can also be submitted to Los Angeles Regional Crime Stoppers at www.lacrimestoppers.org. Let me open it up now if you have any questions. If I cannot answer them, if the detail is such, I will refer it to one of my partners here.
Let's go to Anna's comment here. That was the point made by my friend who was a prosecutor. People who do not know boundaries can easily escalate to rape or murder. Yep, and that makes sense. So anybody that is crossing those boundaries, like entering your home while you're sleeping, I think 100% they're capable of murder. They've already made that choice. Because what's going to be the outcome if somebody wakes up, right? And I feel like that thought is just so it excites them. Like that's what, nothing else. Life is completely boring, but the moment they decided to enter into somebody's home while they were sleeping, they feel alive, that excitement, that adrenaline, and they got to just continue to push those boundaries.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Safe to say that no crime has been committed. There is no evidence of it.
At this point, we have not been able to determine any crime has been committed.
Chief, given that there's no reason that for any law enforcement agency to detain or arrest her at all at this point.
That's correct.
Is there any indication from her family that there were arguments, disagreements, problems prior to her leaving Hawaii and during a period of a month where she's been sort of seen, not seen?
Yeah, I mean, it's no indication that there would be anything to cause this to happen in this fashion, for her to go off. But like any family situation, who knows what the dynamics are.
How did you learn that she had a desire to disconnect from modern technology? How did you learn that piece of information?
Yeah,
So the question by the reporter was, how did you know that she had a need to disconnect from modern technology? So I don't know. I feel like this is psychosis 101, right? And it's getting worse by the day.
Let me address that to Lieutenant Oldfield, if you would.
Hi, Jane.
I'll see your first and last name, please.
Douglas Oldfield, Douglas, last name Oldfield, Oldfield. I'm the officer in charge of the Special Enforcement Section out of Detective Support and Vice Division, which handles the missing person unit.
Later, Hiawatha.
Right. So for the question of whether she wanted to disconnect, by looking at her past social media, we then saw indications that there were some desires or posts that would be consistent in somebody who would have the desire to disconnect from their phone. I think it's not something that I have available right now. It's just that was part of the investigation. Are we 100% right on that? We can't say, right? We just know that she did not have her phone.
V says it's a weird call. Why would her dad do that if he was busy searching for his daughter? Did he have mental issues or drug issues? This is open to endless theories at this point. It's extremely disturbing. So I have a feeling something happened. Something triggered him. So I don't know if he lost his job, if he was just so heartbroken that his daughter was missing. He's looking for her, and then he found her, right? And once he finds her, she's just like, screw you, Dad. I don't care. I'm not coming back to Maui. This is my new life. I'm going to travel. I'm going to try to find my way in the world. And maybe that was just too much for the father, but it just doesn't make any sense, guys. Just because you fall from a tall building doesn't mean that you jumped. Somebody could have pushed you. There could have been a struggle. I mean, what proof is there that he took his own life? That's the question that I have.
After she left LAX, right, around 1800 to 1900, we know she doesn't have her phone on her. For what reason? We can't say for sure.
How did she get from LA to the US Mexico border?
Hiawatha says maybe Hannah and her dad had a secret. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that people just jump off tall buildings or, off of a high structure just because, like, oh my God, I can't take this. Something has to trigger that. You have to be in a state of a mind where nothing matters. That there's such a pain that you just can't get to. There's a pain that you can't relieve. The only relief, the only thing better than that pain would be death. How do you get from point A to point B? Something had to have happened.
Do you have any idea?
Yes. So she traveled through the MTA. She then made it to Union Station. At Union Station, she used her passport and cash to purchase a ticket to get to the border.
V says family is demanding to see the footage. The footage of her going into Mexico, or the footage from the LAX parking garage that proves that Ryan took his own life.
And she then crossed the border.
Have you seen the video of the border? How would you
Yes.
describe or characterize how she appeared?
She appeared fine. She was with nobody else. I have nothing additional, but I have observed the video, yes.
I spoke with Hannah's sister earlier today. She says the family disagrees with law enforcement's assessment.
Okay, let's go to that question by the reporter.
Nobody else. I have nothing additional, but I have observed the video, yes.
I spoke with Hannah's sister
So the reporter says, I spoke with Hannah's sister.
earlier today. She says the family disagrees
She says that the family disagrees
with law enforcement's assessment.
with law enforcement's assessment. But this gentleman here says that he saw the video of her going into crossing the border into Mexico, and you can do that on foot easily. It's the pedestrian crossing.
What do you say to them?
Well, fantastic. Thank you.
Alan Hamilton, I'm the chief of detectives for the LAPD. We understand that there are concerns on behalf of family and friends. We've been very transparent with the family to this point. We have had daily communication and contact with family members, and we've given all the information that we can provide in terms of what our investigation has entailed, what the efforts have been on behalf of the LAPD and other partner law enforcement agencies. We've put a lot of resources into this investigation. So just to be clear to the public, the LAPD has taken this report seriously from the moment that we received it, and we have expended a lot of resources to include a trip this past weekend to the U.S.-Mexico border to collaborate with our partners there. So this is an investigation where we've done a lot of things face-to-face with our partners, and we've...
Hiawatha says, did you see the sister's interview on the news? No, I did not.
we've gone to extraordinary measures in terms of our technological investigations in this case. We've really left no stone unturned, and it's led us to this conclusion and the information that the chief is providing today.
Alan, I don't know whether you or the lieutenant wants to run with, is there anything in the information you gained from previous messages, things like that, which mentioned a name of a person, a group, or something that might want to assist her in disconnecting from society? Is this an individual desire, or she expressed some kind of a knowledge or an awareness of a certain type of pattern of social organization she might want to join somewhere in Mexico?
Generalized individual desire, we have no information that she's working with anyone else.
You guys had a couple of these cases recently, unfortunately, where women have decided to just, make a change or disappear on their own. Is any word you would say to someone thinking about this, or just encourage them, I guess? You guys take all these cases so seriously. It requires a lot of manpower.
A tremendous amount of manpower. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of personnel involved in any major investigation like this, and in order to try and protect those that are in many cases very vulnerable. My ask would be to anybody considering doing this, think about the people that you're leaving behind, your loved ones who are going to be worried sick about you. The number of people, including law enforcement and other partners who are going to be looking for you, which then potentially takes them away from other work that is also critically important. So there's a lot other than somebody just deciding that they want to leave and disconnect. Consider those that are behind you and those that will be impacted by your actions.
And when it comes to psychosis, like, that's easier said than done. People who are suffering from this type of mental illness, they don't want any help. Because they don't really know how to explain it. They're hearing audible voices and they're actually hallucinating. Unless you can reach your hands into somebody's brain and remove these voices and these hallucinations, there's really no way that you can help. So it becomes very frustrating, I think, for these folks.
Right. Right.
What would you say to them?
I'm very sorry to the family for all that they've been throughout this ordeal. We're very sorry for their loss.
I don't know much about the XV. Is there anything you can tell us about that angle?
And I don't know that words can express, the feelings that they're going through during this very difficult time. But there's a lot of people very much in support of what they're going through.
In essence, Chief, this is back on the family at this point. They and the daughter basically have got to settle this between them.
Yeah, I mean, we've basically done everything we can do at this point. She's left the nation, left the country, and in another nation now. So, as I mentioned in the earlier comments, that if she comes back into the U.S., law enforcement will be notified of that, and try and do whatever we can if there's a need to at that time.
Mexican authorities, though, have a...
Yeah, let's go to Hiawatha. And it could be that simple. Maybe Hannah just wanted to go to Mexico and get away from everybody, start over. Hell, I feel that way sometimes. But why lie about it? Why make up an elaborate story? You're heading to New York, and then you just, right in the middle of that, you change your trajectory, and now you're hanging around the homeless folks in LA, which is already very dangerous. And now you're going into Mexico, Tijuana, through San Diego. I think it's these things that point me to psychosis, but you absolutely could be right. Maybe she's just making up these plans as she goes along. She's just happy to be in the States, and now she can do what she wants. If she wants to go to Mexico, she'll go to Mexico. If she wants to live with the homeless folks, she can live amongst the homeless.
A certain degree of latitude way beyond what forces here in the United States might have. Have you advised them of the situation, filled them in as much as you can? Might they decide to take action on their own, whatever that might decide to do?
Yeah, I haven't had any interaction. I don't know if no, nothing. No.
What day did she cross over? Roughly what time?
Oh, I can.
Yeah, please.
November 12th at 12:13 p.m. She walked through the tunnel that leads to Mexico.
And in San Diego there?
Yeah, she walked through it's the San Ysidro port of entry, and she walked through the tunnel that leads to Mexico, and that was at 12:13 on the 12th, 12:13 p.m.
What about the text messages that she sent to her family before it went silent? It sounded as though she was in distress. Can you speak to her state of mind? And
If you guys can't hear the questions, the reporter's asking, what about the text messages that she sent to her family where she appeared to be in distress?
Yeah, we're going to address it.
Yeah, good.
So we can't speak to her state of mind. We are aware there have been some communications prior. We are aware of that communication, and we cannot necessarily interpret. I think some of the communication can be interpreted a number of different ways. So at this time, we're not able to interpret those communications without having Hannah present to explain, how she felt when she sent them and what the specific meanings were for those messages.
Let's do one more question. Hannah was seen with an unknown person at Metro Station.
What's that? Slab City.
Any idea who that person was?
So the question was.
Okay, this is a very important right here. I thought this was the really helpful piece of information. Remember, she was seen with an unidentified individual, and the reporter's asking about that person if he's been identified. And here's the response from law enforcement.
Was about the individual that she was identified traveling with on the Metro. We have identified that individual. That individual was cooperative in the investigation. That individual cooperated by allowing himself to be interviewed with his attorney present and family members. He gave a full disclosure of the entire sequence of events. We utilized independent investigative techniques to verify his story, and it fully checked out.
What was the relationship? What was the connection?
They met at LAX. Right.
So, I mean, pretty good work by LA police there. It's not like they're doing anything, or it's not like they're doing nothing. They did the investigation, and I think they're giving us the answers here. Still some questions about what happened to Ryan, but I think, there's nothing you can do about it now. She wants to go to Mexico. She can go to Mexico. Is she in danger? Most likely. Is she suffering from some kind of mental health episode? I believe so. But here we're free to do and be who we want, whatever that may be. Hiawatha says, in all honesty, we don't know that Hannah was in psychosis. Maybe she said, to hell with all of it. Yeah, we don't know. That's just that's just my theory. I believe that's what's going on. I think that explains the elaborate ruse. She told a story that her family would accept and buy and would encourage her, right? She wanted the encouragement to go to the States because that's what she wanted. She wanted to get away. So create this elaborate story. They will then motivate you or be on your side to fly from Maui into LAX. We're proud of you. We're excited for you. You're going on an adventure. But the truth is she was going on an adventure, all right, but it wasn't one that her family would approve of. To me, that points to psychosis. Does that prove anything? No. That's just my theory. Could be Hiawatha. Maybe there's something that she's running from in Maui. Maybe a secret that maybe only Ryan knows. So if she wasn't suffering from psychosis, I just feel like she would have come forward. When she's hanging around with all these people on the streets of LA, and they're saying, don't you know you're missing? Don't you know that the world is looking for you? At this point, I believe that she would come forward and say something about it. Like, oh, well, nobody's hurt me. I'm not missing. I'm a free person. I can do what I want. And this is what I'm choosing to do. I'm not missing. I haven't been abducted. Just leave me alone. But she didn't even come forward. Hey, what's up, Don Spain? Thank you for that donation, by the way. That was very generous of you. Been listening while working in the barn. Could the dad have abused her and knew the truth would come out? Yeah, maybe he has guilt. I just hate assuming what may have happened. Right now, it would just really take, if Hannah's not ill, she should come forward, make a statement, and then go about her business. Does she have to? No. But I think that after what happened with her father, she kind of owes it to the world. Like, what happened to this man? He came out here looking for you. And if he's a bad man or a good man, you should tell the world that. But yeah, I mean, it's just my curiosity. What happened to that poor man? How are you so motivated to find your daughter, and then 12 days later, you're taking your own life? Something happened. But yeah, it could be a secret. Does ring true. V says, I didn't think of it that way, Sleuth. That makes more sense than anything else. He found her. She didn't want anything to do with him, or the cartel pushed him. Yeah, which is it? Occam's razor, right? He finds out that she's going through it, and maybe he lost his job. Maybe he spent all his money chasing her down, only to find her, right? Become extremely excited. I found you. I found you. And she's like, no, I don't want to be found. I've been hiding from you specifically. That could be a hard pill to swallow for a father. Yep, I agree, right, Phil? Horrible. And that is the part that's kind of driving me crazy. But I think that we can close the book on that, on the Hannah Kobayashi story. She's definitely alive and well, according to LAPD. And they have proof that she went into Mexico on her own and alone. So maybe we'll find out. We'll hear more about this in the future. Yeah, and that's a good point too. CJK says sadly they spent a lot of taxpayer money, not to mention taking away help for other missing people. And Hannah needs to speak for that. If she's not suffering from some kind of mental breakdown, I think it would be good for her to kind of explain what happened, to hear her side of things. People were so worried about her, and there's been so much collateral damage, not to mention investigators chasing her around LA when they could have been searching for somebody who really needed the help. And I got to give it to LAPD. I mean, they really did a great investigation. The fact that they found this gentleman that she was caught on CCTV footage with and was able to interview him and get him to talk and to explain his involvement, I think that's huge. And then the fact that they were able to get that footage of her traveling into Mexico, I think they solved the mystery. The only mystery that they haven't solved is what happened to her poor father. If he's the poor father, right? Something happened. Maybe we will find out what that was, and maybe we won't. Right, Phil says Tijuana of all places. H. Nixon, no. We're going to get into that here in a minute. First, I want to talk about Joe Biden pardoning his son Hunter. How do you guys feel about that? He said from the beginning that he would not pardon Hunter for his crimes. And they haven't even mentioned the laptop yet. Hey, Tom, thank you so much. Cop is saying nicely she wasted their time. Yeah, in a nice way. That's what CJK was saying. A lot of taxpayer money. And they did a great job. I'm sure if they were tracking her down as a fugitive, they would have had her in custody right now. Okay, thanks, V. And you're talking about the boyfriend, right? I've heard this person been mentioned, but I try to avoid rabbit holes until I can't help but trip down one, or at least get my legs stuck down one. Maybe the breakup broke her, for lack of a better term. There was something very similar with Chelsea Grimm. Remember, she was talking about traveling across country. She had this big journey that she was going to go on, but she only made it to Arizona. She very similar, and I believe that she was suffering from psychosis as well. Hopefully, she's still alive, doing her own thing. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear from her in the future. I don't know, War Kittens. That's the part that's driving me crazy. Does she know that the whole world was looking for her at one point? Does she know that her father came looking for her and is now deceased? Does she know? Does she even care? Brightfield, Biden sucks. Has lied the entire time, so it's not surprising. Let's watch this quick news report here.
Hey, big Fox News alert we've been covering for you all morning long. Hunter Biden's pardon comes after months of the White House insisting the president will not let his son off the hook.
From a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No. I can say that it is still very much a no to the questions that I've gotten about if the president's going to pardon his son.
Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
Okay, was the answer no because they thought he was going to become president again? Or is it just no because we don't want you to know what our plans are? And I think the question for chat is, do you think it's okay for a president to pardon their family the way that Biden did? I say, hey, I mean, I feel like Biden's probably worse of a person than Hunter Biden. I can't prove it, but from a father standpoint, I don't see anything wrong with it. Why wouldn't you pardon your own son, even if he is a derelict?
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son, Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I've been very clear. The president's been very clear when we've been asked this question.
That's a good perspective too. Don says, no surprise, Biden is covering for himself. So if he doesn't pardon Hunter, does that mean that Hunter in turn snitches on his father? Like, hey, you didn't protect me, so therefore I'm not going to protect you.
Fox News contributor Joe Concha joins me now. Very clear, Joe. Clear as mud.
Yeah. Karine Jean-Pierre, she's going to be great on The View. Isn't she, Todd? I mean, she's going to be working.
CJK says it should be illegal to pardon a family member, in my opinion. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about that. Like, I understand what he's doing. Like, that's my child. I'm going to pardon him. But what if he was a murderer? You know, is he going to pardon a murderer? According to the stuff that was found on his laptop, he looks like he could be a pedophile. He's definitely abusing methamphetamine on camera. So that's who he's pardoning. Is that okay?
That rotation, no doubt, or handed a primetime show on MSNBC. Either way, we can look at this two ways, right? If President Biden, and yes, he's still president, even though most Americans barely see or hear from the guy anymore. If Joe Biden didn't pardon his criminal
Hey,
son,
what's up, Mary?
some would be saying how horrible a father he was for not doing that, while shamefully
Welcome in, Mary. Shout out to South Central Kentucky.
walking out of the Oval Office after what many can call the worst presidency of anyone's lifetime. On the other hand, if Joe didn't pardon Hunter, and yes, it's hard having the name Joe these days, then my bet is future President Trump would have, either in the name of unity or just to, troll Democrats and their many allies in the media into completely losing their minds again for doing so. Either way, entities from the New York Post to Fox News are vindicated here, because we were told from 51 former intelligence officers back in October 2020, right before that election, that Hunter Biden's laptop was a product of Russian disinformation. And every media outlet outside of this one echoed that sentiment as if it were gospel, as if it were absolute fact. Twitter, run by Elon Musk.
Let's go to V. All right. Now we're being honest, right? V says, I'd pardon my son, though. That's what I'm saying. When do you draw the line? Like, where do you draw the line? It's kind of like with Richard Allen and Kathy Allen. If she knew he's the killer, can you fault her for not saying anything? What's the difference between pardoning his son, who was convicted by a jury of his peers, and he's still facing other charges?
I'm sorry, not run by Elon Musk, but Jack Dorsey and Facebook and that duplicitous phony, Mark Zuckerberg running it then and running it now, literally.
Okay, yeah, I think that's kind of the point. CJK says, I'll try not to get too political. But remember, here on Anything and Everything, we do what we want. We talk about what we want. We get political. We can talk shit about people who are being political. We are free to do and say what we want during these live streams. CJK says, I'll try not to get too political, but if Trump did this, heads by many would spin. Yeah, everything is, oh, Trump's going to do this, Trump's going to do that, he's going to start World War III. But that's what Biden did. Everything that we were afraid Trump was going to do. So it's like total projection from
shut
these
down
folks.
accounts which said the laptop and its contents were real. This pardon now closes a chapter on one of the most sorry moments for our media and the deep state alike. And it cements Joe Biden and his team's legacy, like Karine Jean-Pierre, as the most dishonest, least accessible administration in American history. And that ain't hyperbole. Yes, he gets away with it, but we all saw this coming. Let's face it.
A mile away.
Yeah, we all did see it coming. I did. And I don't know whether or not to blame him or not.
Reversal from President Joe Biden last night, issuing a full and unconditional pardon of his son Hunter, ending a legal saga the president now says was politically motivated. The younger Biden potentially faced decades in prison on gun charges. ABC's Karen Travers reports from the White House.
This morning, President Biden is en route to Angola after a holiday weekend spent with.
And what happens with the laptop now? Because this has nothing to do with the laptop. Remember those videos and what appeared to be CSAM, drug abuse, proof of corruption. Remember the whole big guy thing? So what happens with that? I mean, is he free and clear from all of that as well?
Family on Nantucket, stopping briefly in Washington in between and announcing he's pardoning his son, Hunter. Hunter was convicted of lying on a form about his drug use when he purchased a gun and in a separate case agreed to plead guilty to tax charges. Biden argues his son's charges came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them.
Did you guys see that video of Hunter where they were up on the balcony on the White House and he was obviously high? And then later on that night, they found like cocaine in the White House. Do you remember that? He's like rubbing his nose and everybody looks all awkward. Have you guys ever seen that video?
Them to attack me
Damn, I should
and
have had
oppose
that.
my election. The president's decision is a reversal from a position he held for months.
And have you ruled out a pardon for your son?
Yes.
The pardon goes beyond Hunter's gun and tax charges, also covering offenses against the United States which he has committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1, 2014 through December 1, 2024. The chairman of the House Oversight Committee, a Republican, accuses Biden of skirting accountability. Democratic House Representative Greg Stanton of Arizona also criticized Biden's decision, saying Hunter committed felonies and was convicted by a jury of his peers. Biden is not the first president to use his pardon powers before leaving office. President Clinton pardoned a former business partner and his half-brother, Roger Clinton.
I remember that.
President Trump pardoned Charles Kushner, his son-in-law's father, and just announced as Trump's pick for ambassador to France. In response to Biden's decision, Trump wrote, "Does the pardon given by Joe to Hunter include the January 6th hostages?" addressing a promise he campaigned off of. Trump has also promised to go after those he considers political enemies and has announced plans to fire FBI Director Christopher Wray, replacing him with longtime ally Kash Patel, who has vowed to help the president-elect with his plan for retribution.
Putting his son in the Bureau of Prisons within the power and control of Donald Trump, a political rival, it was probably something as a father he needed to do to protect his son.
Hunter Biden potentially faced
Crazy. That's what I titled the folder was "Pardon Me, Joe." Pardon me, comma, Joe. So I don't know. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion about that. You know, politics is a weird game. But where would you draw the line? But we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. Hey, wife Lilith, what is up? Nope, KA gets no grace from me. She walked out of the courthouse and said, "This isn't over." Like, so sit down somewhere, Miss Bridge Guy. Yeah, maybe that's what we'll call her from now on. It's not Kathy Allen, it's Miss Bridge Guy. So we'll hang out in the chat, see if you guys have anything to add to all of that. Good to see you, Lilith. Joe should pay the court costs. Well, of course, that's going to fall on the taxpayer, like everything else does, right? We pay for everything. We're basically slaves. Hunter Biden, the butter tooth. I mean, we're talking about a meth head here. Yeah, you can't get a job at McDonald's with felonies, but you can be the mayor of D.C. Jeez. Well, who elected a felon? You know, that's why they tried to get Trump, try to get those felonies, which will be removed eventually because it was all political. You guys know that. Okay, how many of you have heard of the Fort Worth missing trio? Now, you guys brought this case to my attention during our last Anything and Everything, and that was the first time I had heard of it. H. Nixon says Trump's charges were manufactured. Absolutely. They were hoping that would help keep him from being elected president, right? I'm not voting for no felon. It's just like a talking point. Yeah, I never liked the Bushes or the Clintons. Everything they've ever accused Trump of, they've all been guilty of it. War crimes, corruption, warmongering, nepotism. So I understand why Joe Biden pardoned Hunter. I think the question for chat is, where would you draw the line? Like, where do you draw the line? What if he was convicted of murder or was convicted of CSAM or something like that? I hear that, V. I hear that. All right, because of time, we're still going to get into Sarah Boone, Karen Reed, and the UFO invasion that was supposed to happen yesterday. And we'll tell you where that story kind of was created. It's kind of interesting. Exactly, Don. Same with Biden. It's all like the same little group of people. They're all motivated by the same thing, same investments. Yep, right down the line. Yeah, Hillary and Harris, same thing. All right, let's get into this case here, the Fort Worth missing trio. Here's a close-up. Rachel, I think it's pronounced Tralica. It's spelled kind of strange, Trlica. Renee Wilson, Julianne Mosley. The Fort Worth missing trio refers to an unsolved missing persons case in which three girls, Mary Tralica, Lisa Wilson, and Julie Mosley, went missing while shopping at a Seminary South shopping center in Fort Worth, Texas on December 23rd, 1974. The car that the girls had been driving was left behind in the parking lot at the mall. The girls themselves have not been seen since. And they had gifts in the car that had already been wrapped. Nobody touched those gifts. The case shocked the Fort Worth community and left the families of the girls to adjust to life without their children. Thousands of leads have been followed, dozens of searches completed, and hundreds of people interviewed. All attempts to find the girls have proven fruitless. Still an unsolved crime. Here is an early 1988 news report.
The tree is trimmed, presents fill the room, but Christmas is not an easy time for these people. The joyous season brings little joy.
This time of year is real hard for us. It brings back the memories of everything that we went through.
I honestly believe that my sister is alive. Someday, if I can raise the funds somehow, I'm going to find her.
On December 23rd, 1974, Rachel Trelisa,
Good to see
Renee
you, Lilith.
Wilson,
Have a good day.
and Julie Mosley went Christmas shopping at the Seminary South Shopping Center. They never returned. Fran Langston still has hope her daughter Rachel will return.
Maybe the phone's going to ring and they found her, or she's going to come walking in or whatever. But
The day of the disappearance, Rayanne Mosley could talk about Julie.
They go, shopping down to the Dairy Queen, something like that with them.
She can no longer talk about it. There are few facts. The only real evidence, the car with wrapped Christmas presents inside. The Seminary South Shopping Center is now known as Town Center. This place has undergone a lot of changes in all those years, but the scene here this evening is a lot like it was 15 years ago. The parking lot filled with a lot of cars and the mall filled with a lot of last-minute shoppers. There was speculation years ago that the girls went from Fort Worth to Houston to visit relatives. They never went to Houston. Police have never been able to answer how and why the girls disappeared from here. But to this day, people still contact police offering possible leads.
Anytime you're still getting calls on something, there's still a possibility that something will break on it, sure.
These people want that break. They want the truth.
it'd be much easier if we knew, if they were dead, if we could take them out to Laura Land and bury them. And, just get it over with.
I think that's the worst part of these cases is not knowing. It's got to be torture.
They are still waiting for someone to call them with answers. They are waiting for a reunion. Tim Herrera, Channel 5 News.
Ago, 3 Fort Worth girls disappeared while shopping for Christmas gifts. It became one of the most notable missing persons.
Here's the age progression. Dang, that's crazy. 3 girls missing at the same time. It's got to be somebody that they knew. If they were kidnapped, somebody that they know did this to them.
Cases in the city's history. And today, the cold case
Or somebody that gained their trust quickly.
is getting all new attention for National Missing Children's Day. NBC5's Alana Quillen spoke with their families and is in Burleson with the latest.
It's been a big mystery now for over 48 years.
A mystery these families hope to find answers to.
So we're hoping that these billboards.
Okay, so I think the question for the chat right now is how could somebody possibly abduct 3 teenage girls? Just vanishing off the face of the earth. How do you do that? Or how does that happen?
Boards will open things up. Maybe somebody will know something, speak up.
Clear Channel has partnered with the Texas Center for the Missing to regenerate tips through billboards across North Texas. What happened to 17-year-old Rachel Trelisa, 14-year-old Renee Wilson, and 9-year-old Julie Mosley on December 23, 1974?
It was 2 days before Christmas, and they went shopping and just never came home.
The 3 were last seen at the Seminary South Shopping Center, now known as La Grande Plaza.
And then it looks like they disappeared off the face of the earth.
And if it was somebody that they did know, who would target them? Why? Like, why wouldn't you target them individually? Is this an early case of sex trafficking? Well, maybe one of the earliest reported cases?
Rachel's car was found in the parking lot. The gifts they bought that day still inside, but little to no clues. The next day, families say they got a letter from Rachel claiming they had run off to Houston.
We're all confident that Rachel didn't write the letter.
In the nearly 50 years since.
Right? Kind of reminds us of the JonBenet Ramsey case. Like, why the letter? Remember, this to me points to a crime. Criminals write letters like this. Disorganized criminals who in their mind are smarter than investigators and are replaying different scenarios in their minds. And they're trying to think, well, how can, if I just inject myself, I can change the narrative. I can change the course of the investigation. I can stage the crime scene to make it look like something that it's not.
To Houston.
We're all confident that Rachel didn't write the letter.
In the nearly 50 years since, Christmases have never been the same. Thousands of leads led to nothing.
I can't tell you how many holes we've dug, how many lakes we've searched.
For the next month, billboards will display these age-progressed photos of the girls. Clear Channel estimates it could put millions of fresh eyes on a problem that still...
And I don't know if letters could be categorized as undoing. You know, kind of like with the Delphi case, you had Richard Allen redressing possibly one of the victims, trying to undo. He didn't want anybody to know that he was motivated by sexual assault, that it was a sexually motivated crime. So the redressing and the staging of the crime scene is to undo that, right? So is that what these letters are? Is that what was going on in the Ramsey case? The killer didn't want people to look at it as a sexually motivated crime. So if you create the ransom note, it's not a sexually motivated crime. It's a money motivated crime, which is in its own way an undoing, right?
happens today.
The Texas Department of Public Safety received nearly 50,000 missing persons reports last year. Most of those involved juveniles.
It's just important to realize there are so many who are missing and that need our help.
Fort Worth PD's cold case unit has one full-time detective, but countless cases to pour through.
And if they have a lead, they're definitely going to research it. They're going to do whatever they can to bring that person home or to bring closure to a family.
The families hope this could help the police find that one lead.
I know there's somebody out there that knows what happened.
Alana Quillen, NBC5.
Three
What's up,
Fort
Big
Worth
Fish?
girls disappeared.
So let's take a closer look here. I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Trolika? Trika? So Mary Rachel Trelika. Rachel, whose full name was Mary Rachel Trelika, was 17 years old, although still in high school. Rachel married Thomas. Why is this different? 21 and became a stepmom to his 2-year-old son. Rachel's maiden name is Arnold. That's interesting. Is that a clue? Rachel, whose full name was Rachel Trelika, was 17 years old. Although still in high school, Rachel was married to Thomas, who was 21, and became a stepmom to his 2-year-old son. That's a little strange. Wonder if there's a backstory to that. Lisa Wilson, like Rachel, Renee preferred her middle name. She was only 14 years old at the time of her disappearance. Renee was dating Julie's older brother, Terry. In fact, Terry gave Renee a promise ring the morning before she vanished. She asked Terry to accompany the girls before shopping, but he decided to visit a friend instead. That opened up a spot for Julie to tag along. Julie Mosley is the youngest of the 3 missing girls. She was only 9 years old at the time. Julie lived across the street from Lisa's grandmother's house, where Lisa was spending the late morning hours of December 23rd. Julie and Rachel had never met before the shopping trip. So strange. Now, this is the weirdest part of it all. I know I'm going to catch it, but we just had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears upper lot. Okay, remember, this is a few days before Christmas. So you're not going to leave your entire family. You're going shopping for Christmas. There's Christmas gifts in your car already. You're not going to just say, fuck it, we're going to Houston with a 9-year-old girl. We'll be back in a week. And this looks like somebody's actual handwriting. I don't feel like they were trying to cover it up. I don't think they were thinking about handwriting analysis. So if they can match this handwriting to maybe the husband, the boyfriend, somebody that knew they were at the mall, I think they're going to find out who did this. This is 100% whoever wrote this is responsible for their disappearance. Would you guys agree with that? And you got to ask yourself, as the abductor, why are you writing these letters? Because there's something wrong with you. You think you're outsmarting the investigators. The same thing that caused you to go and do this crime is the same thing that's causing you to try to cover it up, which is compulsion. I know I'm going to catch it, but and who talks like that? Is that how they used to talk in the 70s? But we just had to get away. What do you mean we? 2 of you just met that day. So this is bullshit. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. The car is in Sears upper lot. Okay, so the kidnappers, and I believe they were kidnapped, knew about the vehicle. They knew where it was, they knew where it was parked, and they knew which vehicle they were in. This is one of those cases where I believe multiple people are involved, and they're all equally motivated to keep their mouths shut. So I don't even know where to begin on this one. I would say it's somebody that they know. It's somebody that they trusted. I think that we can start there. Maybe the other 2 were just collateral damage. Yeah, she was very young, 9 years old. Never to be found. Right field says it looks like a young girl's handwriting. That's the first thing I thought of. I was like, man, this looks like the handwriting from when I was in elementary school, or maybe even junior high. Okay, so this is supposed to be from Rachel. Okay, Rachel, she was the oldest, 17 years old. And it's my understanding that the handwriting does not match. Do you think Rachel could be involved? No, not yet, Hiawatha. We're getting there. We're going to close out with that. Okay, so you're an investigator. Where do you begin? I would begin with the husband, the 21-year-old husband of a 17-year-old girl. What were you doing that day? What was your relationship like? Then you have the boyfriend of the 14-year-old girl who had just given the promise ring. Was there something going on there? But honestly, I feel like this is more connected with Rachel, and the other 2 may just be collateral. Yeah, December 23rd. It's just a couple days before Christmas. You're not going to Houston. You're at the mall because you're getting Christmas gifts because you're excited about Christmas. You're not trying to get away. You're not leaving for a week. This is somebody's attempt to buy time. But it does look like a woman's handwriting. I definitely agree with that. Well, and then you have the mall. I mean, anything can happen at the mall, right? But 3 victims. If you're going to abduct somebody out of a parking lot, why would it be 3 victims? Wouldn't you just target one young woman? Unless you abducted the 9-year-old and the other 2 were trying to help and the abductor just had to take them all. I mean, I can't even wrap my head around this. The only thing that makes sense is it's somebody that they trusted to go with off scene in a separate vehicle that harmed them. I don't see this as a stranger abduction. So if you guys are part of the replay crew, if you can let me know what your theories are in the comment section. I'm extremely curious. I don't know where to begin on this. I know that this note or this postcard is the key. It was signed at just Rachel. Here's the front and the back of the postcard. I can't wrap my mind around it. I tried. So mine is not wrapped around this case either. I know I'm going to catch it. And when she says catch it, what does she mean? Catch hell? Like I'm going to get in trouble? Well, yeah, you're basically abducting a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old. What do you mean you're going to catch it? You're going to jail. We just had to get away. We're going to Houston. See you in about a week. It's either that or they were completely lied to. Never to be seen again. Walked away into the woods in September near her home and supposedly very familiar with the woods there. Yeah, you never know who's hiding in the woods, guys. You never know who's just past those trees. And you can kind of see where somebody's been doing the analysis here. Like you can see they're marking some letters here. The 6, the 3, the 2. I think they compared it to Rachel's handwriting and it did not match. So whoever wrote this letter is thinking, man, I got away with this shit. And it's because of my brilliant letter. But really, this is the only clue here. And if they did get harmed and dumped somewhere, it's not far. Somewhere near Fort Worth, for sure. So that's a very troubling case. I don't know if you guys are keeping up with the Sarah Boone case. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I just wanted to show you guys her response during sentencing. And it would be crazy to see Richard Allen do something very similar to this.
Notes are written, a letter that you want to read from and then you want to speak to the court after that? Yes.
Let me play the short one first. So I have two. This is the one where she's kind of attacking social media. You know, the bloodlust, like Diener likes to call it.
Another great contributor of my gold is social media, with its greed, insensitivity, deception, obvious exploitation, and advantageous gain from my criminal case as a whole, and for sentencing me by anticipation as a result of ignorance and hate, conjured and fabricated by the organized crime that is social media, which condemned me in the court of
Well, you guys, we are now organized crime, right? It's not bloodlust. We're organized crime now. Just so you know.
global public opinion since the beginning. My family law case is the new prey waiting to be picked apart and pillaged from me being made infamous by social media in my criminal case. It simply seems I cannot forgive and be forgiven and move forward. Social media has made me a pariah. It has caused great oppression and undeniable disadvantages, especially by broadcasting and manipulating my cases online. In my criminal case, as a result, my opportunities to be given a fair, proper, and uninfluenced successful conclusion was heavily depleted and poisoned. I forgive them. Also, all of the media tycoons for not having a life of their own, trying so desperately to make
I always liked that word, pariah.
themselves seem so right by making me appear so wrong. Forgiveness for prejudgment, ridiculous theatrics, lies, making and taking blood money from my and others' misfortunes, accidents, and catastrophes. It's all over their hands and their keyboards.
So there's blood on our keyboards for covering a murder case. Making her a pariah. An outcast, right? But listen to this rant here. I had to share it with you guys.
Notes are written.
She is
a
absolutely
letter that
out
you
of her
want to
mind.
read from and then you want to speak to the court after that?
Yes.
All right. Why don't you go ahead and get started?
No remorse.
This is actually an edited version of
Just read it. So weird.
I had a lot to say. I've had a lot of time to think about things, and I didn't really know how to put it on paper. And I didn't know how much I could say or how little I should say. So what I have here is, like I said, an edited version.
Oh, yeah.
But I would like to read the more important parts that I feel that everyone should know that wasn't said in my actual trial. And on top of what I have on paper, I have, this is just the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg. So I wanted to read this, and then if I may, I would like to address everyone in my apology on top of my statement.
There is no apology.
You may proceed, ma'am.
Kentu Sukuroi is a kind of Japanese ceramic style which means to repair with gold. In this tradition, when a ceramic piece breaks, an artisan will fuse the pieces back together again using liquid gold or gold dust lacquer. So rather than being covered up, the breaks become more obvious and a brilliant new piece of art emerges from the brokenness.
Yep.
It embraces flaws, weakness, and imperfections, and also teaches the essence of resilience. Every crack in a ceramic piece is a part of its history, and each piece becomes more beautiful because it has been broken. This is the way.
Brad says, blah, blah. Exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Like, what are you doing?
Wisdom of Kentu Sukuroi.
Blah, 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 blah.
In my wisdom and with all of my repairs, then, now, and ongoing, God is, has been, and will always be my artisan. All of my gold is forgiveness. This has held me together, made me shine brighter, and overcome the damage caused by George Torres, the Torres family, the justice system, Orange County Corrections Department, social media, scoundrel detectives, infamy, defamation.
Scoundrel detectives. She's like, I hate you bastards.
Ongoing constitutional rights violations, second-degree murder, forced into being pro se. Just as gold is very precious, forgiveness is invaluable. Forgiveness
She's so proud of herself with this, with her writing.
is not an attempt to change or forget who, what, or how you've lived through to be so gold, but an act of grace, humility, and considerable self-compassion to be set free from sorrow. Withholding forgiveness denies your brilliance and
Set free from sorrow. The way she kind of like, I don't know, just her voice.
adds even greater grief and deeper heartache, irreparable cracks on top of the already that no one deserves, no matter the pain or disappointment, untruths or injustice. It doesn't matter. As the more broken you are, even though now different than before, you've become more outstanding and more extraordinary. Above all, when you let go of blame, misunderstandings, excuses, give up your anger and cease from resentment, this is forgiven. And when you forgive, you have...
She's trying to say like she's risen above it all, right? Through all of this, she's a phoenix rising from the ashes. That's what she's trying to tell us.
And when you forgive, you heal. And when you heal, you move forward. My goal begins with George Torres, and every time he slapped me, kicked, punched, spit on, raped, stabbed, choked, laughed at, pushed, pulled, dragged, whipped, tripped, stole from, lied, terrorized, threatened, humiliated, forced, degraded.
I think throughout all of this, she's just justifying her actions. She's saying, I'm justified in what I did.
It made me cry. Every time he tried to end me, defeat, or destroy. I forgive George for beating me senseless, for trying to sleep because I had to go to work or my son's field trip the next day, for ruining my deceased family's heirlooms, traditions, and keepsakes, my son's furniture, destroying the television we watched together, for wrecking our townhome by breaking windows, punching holes in the walls and doors, ramming his entire body into glass doors, kicking in my front and back door over and over and over.
A lot of you out there are in relationships that are very similar to this. So think about that.
For breaking or removing the locks from all of the doors and sometimes the knobs altogether, so I had nowhere to feel safe, including the sacred space of my son's room where he beat me bloody on his bed. For terrorizing and threatening my blind and deaf dogs by leaving the gate open I built to keep them safe, telling me he hoped I'd find their bloated dead body in the pond or scrape the remains off of the pavement, for kicking them off of the bed and throwing across the room because they were trying to protect me. For threatening to make me unrecognizable to my son by breaking all of the bones in my face, like his brother Moses did to him after he kept seeing all of the bruises from George beating me, like all of the times their father beat their mother. For all of the drunken rages and fist fights with so many neighbors when wandering into their apartments during hunting expeditions after I had escaped. For drowning me in liquor and wine because I didn't want to drink, causing me to urinate on myself, then butting the end of the bottle in my face, giving me 2 black eyes and a bloody nose. For making me experience what it is to be sodomized. Threatening to kill my friends and the neighbors when they checked on me to make sure I was alive and in one piece. For threatening to burn down our townhome and set my car on fire because I got a job.
So what she really means is this is a list of the reasons why I'm not remorseful for locking this guy in a suitcase and letting him suffocate to death. Murder by suitcase. She's just giving us a list of reasons why it's justified. And these are horrible, and I feel for her. And when it comes to like battered spouses and girlfriends, it's not always easy just to leave. So there is something to be said there, but murder in this fashion in no way is ever the answer to that.
For holding me hostage on weekends, my son was supposed to come over by keeping my keys around his neck, my phone in his crotch, and a butcher knife stuck in the middle of the table as a warning not to ask anything or try to leave. For stabbing me in the leg and not letting me call 911 for an ambulance or seek help, where I nearly bled to death until I concocted a lie to save him from being arrested.
Yeah, Hiawatha. And the problem is that he's not alive, to answer for any of this. He died a very brutal death. Whether it was deserved or not, we'll never know.
For destroying my phone with a hammer because my son called. For me experiencing ever being arrested and after today, prison. For beating me almost blind, crushing my occipital lobe. For having me experience what it means to see stars, like in the cartoons, where a character has a tall lump on their head. I had that too, and many times. For dragging me downstairs by my hair in the middle of the night just to sit next to him. For taking my car driving drunk with my debit card to buy more alcohol while I slept, even after I kindly explained the importance of my car to take my son to school foremost, me to work, and he to his batterers intervention classes and probation officer meetings, where I would be forced to sit for hours in the parking lot waiting for him. For causing me so much trauma and pain, mentally, physically, emotionally, I had to be hospitalized more than once. For destroying my reputation and integrity, for my M for murderer scarlet letter, not letting me feel safe to live, talk to other people, spend time with my son, have a job, friendships, simply go to the bathroom with the door closed, or go to sleep soundly or comfortably. I forgive George for lying, for him trying in so many ways, so many times.
So I don't apologize for killing this man. I apologize for his actions, or I forgive him for the things that he's done. Crazy.
To end me with his terrifying love. I also forgive the Torres family, his mother and father foremost, also his 2 ex-wives and daughters, all for knowing who George was, capable of, and has done in the past, his history of violence and where he learned it, then to keep turning a blind eye when I would ask for help. All of his siblings, including Farrell Torres, who is now on his way to prison for stabbing the mother of their baby in the side of her head.
Jesus.
For everyone who knew what George was doing to me, sometimes how and when, but allowed and enabled. I forgive them for caring too late.
All right, Josh Schiffer.
Jeez. So, what a insane conclusion to the Sarah Boone trial. So, here's we're going to transition into Karen Reed now. We're running out of time.
As prosecutors laid out their new strategy. Special prosecutor Hank Brennan is trying to show that the facts as we know them don't line up with what Karen Reed and her family members are saying to the media. Brennan argued that he should get access to transcripts from print and TV interviews. And as WBZ's Christina Rex tells us, Brennan wants to use some of that information when he calls a new witness to the stand.
I only tell the truth, and I'm anxious too.
That's Karen Reed's father, Bill, who you'll likely see soon on the stand when the prosecution calls him as a witness in his daughter's second trial.
Miss Reed calls her father and her mother.
That's Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan. He wants Mr. and Mrs. Reed's phone records to show that Karen called them after 1 a.m., after she allegedly struck John O'Keefe with her car.
And so if Miss Reed knew within the first 2 hours that she hit him and that medical procedures could have saved his life, then this is relevant material to show her knowledge that something dramatic had happened.
Ask the defense team.
This is a fishing expedition, plain and simple.
They say the request for Bill Reed's phone records is overbroad and invasive. Tuesday's hearing also focused on media interviews with Karen Reed.
Firefighter said,
prosecutors want to play them at trial, and they want access to unedited footage to show how Reed's story allegedly changed.
The defense chose a strategy, a very strategic strategy, to sell their story and disseminate to the public, potential jury pool. She can make all the statements she wants. But when she does, there is a consequence for that.
That's a fishing expedition. Don't exist.
And the judge took all these arguments under advisement, meaning she'll rule on paper at some point in the future. There's another hearing coming up on December 12th. That's an evidentiary hearing where we'll hear from some expert witnesses ahead of the second trial.
So you guys want to talk about a polarizing case?
firefighter said that you said, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
I said I hit him. It was preceded by a did and proceeded by a question mark. What
does that even mean? You said you hit him. That's it. Doesn't mean that you did or you didn't. You could have thought you hit him and in fact didn't. It's okay to think you did at the time, So I think it's the backtracking that makes her look very guilty. I agree, CJK. V says if she was so scared, why the fuck would she keep him locked up in that suitcase unless she knew she wouldn't have to deal with his abuse after? Mm-hmm. Yeah, she'll never get out of prison. CJK says she's accusing everyone but her. She's not to blame for any of it. Didn't watch this trial because I do find her crazy. For those who did watch, was there proof of the abuse? I'm not sure. I'm sure there was. I mean, I don't doubt what she's saying. I think the question is, why would you kind of stick around? But unless you've been a battered spouse, you really can't answer that question. You know, you might get a, what do they call it? Stockholm syndrome. Where you feel like if you leave, they're going to hurt your family or they're going to do something to you. So it is a fucked up situation. But you think if you were a victim like that, you would still have some kind of remorse for what you quote unquote had to do, right? You weren't given a choice. It was life or death. And I feel bad for being forced to do that. Not that it was justified, right? Yeah, she even stated, Copper Horse, that they were having a better day. Like that was one of their better days, she said. But once she had him in that suitcase, she couldn't resist. She said, I got you. And she became a killer that day. I shot the clerk? Yes. When did you shoot the clerk?
What? At what point did you shoot the clerk? At what point did you shoot the clerk? I shot the clerk. Yes, when did you shoot him? I shot the clerk. Hey, Dean, you need your...
He confessed. That's a confession. Okay, we're not going to spend too much time on the Karen Reed thing, but I do want to know how do you guys feel like she did this? I think that she did. I think the overwhelming evidence about pieces of plastic that belong to the taillight being embedded in O'Keefe's clothing, I think sealed the deal for me. And just the way she's acting during these kind of interviews. Like, it's okay if you said, I hit him. I think that's natural, right? He's laying on the ground. I hit him. And then when they ask you, did you hit him? Well, I don't know. You know, somebody hit him, obviously. I was the only one that was out here. Did I hit him? I don't know. You know, I'm not sure. I could have. That doesn't mean that she did. I think it would have been better for her to be honest about it. Like, I was drunk. I don't know. I think it's possible. Because that would, I think, lead the jury to believe that, yeah, well, if she thinks she did it, it would be easy to set her up for it, right? She thinks she did it. It looks like she did. But if she didn't, you know, a house full of cops would have found it very easy to set her up for that. I mean, she already believes that she did it. Okay. So now we're going to get into a really strange story. So apparently there was supposed to be a alien invasion yesterday. So where this comes from, maybe this article will help. So it involves AI, certain things that happen. And apparently once you can decipher The AI can decipher through the words that were used, like during interviews, and predict the future. And apparently it's been successful in the past. Don't ask me how this works. We're going to try to understand it together. So this was published yesterday. A futurist internet program that predicted the start of a months-long war between humans and aliens on December 3rd has gone viral online. Cliff High, a computer scientist and linguist, spoke in a YouTube video about his model's prediction, known as the 39 Days to Melee. That said, a battle between humans and aliens in the sky would occur 39 days after a trigger incited the incident. What High calls the temporal marker was podcaster Joe Rogan's interview with President-elect Donald Trump on October 25th, which he also predicted years before that interview would take place. High said, so we're going to have some kind of weird confrontation, visible contention, which we could probably call and term combat in the skies, that will show up, and it'll show up at a predictable point, which is probably something over a month. And we'll put down 30 days or 39 days, something over a month after a temporal marker of on Trump and Rogan. And that's just the beginning of all of this, right? And don't forget, we also yesterday had an unidentified, I think it was an asteroid, nearly hit the Earth. And there's another larger one just behind it. So some people are saying, well, it's not an asteroid. That's the invasion. Those are spaceships. High's model predicts that there will be 39 days between the temporal marker of Trump's interview and the appearance of this visible contention, which he said would eventually lead to melee. In this instance, the visible contention would be with space aliens or alien reproduction vehicles. The descriptors his model tracked in 2009 indicated that the visible contention would be UFOs fighting other UFOs or UFOs fighting jets. High predicted that on December 3rd, visible contention between humans and aliens would begin, eventually ending in a melee after an unspecified period. His prediction model, the WebBot, is a computer program that allows individuals to predict future events by tracking keywords on the internet. It monitors internet chatter, including articles, blogs, forums, and more, according to The Telegraph. High created the computer program in 1997 with his partner George Ure, but said he developed his theory regarding a war between humans and aliens in 2009. The prediction has since gone viral on YouTube and X, formerly Twitter, with many voicing their thoughts on his theory in anticipation of a war in the skies. High's YouTube video detailing his prediction on 110,000 views, 4,600 likes, and more than 600 comments at the time of the writing. X user Tiftastic369 wrote about High's prediction and cautioned users about analyzing them in a post that has gained nearly 300,000 views. And that's where I first saw the story. It's important to note that Cliff High's predictions derived from his WebBot project have been met with both interest and skepticism. The WebBot, developed in the late 1990s, analyzes internet chatter to forecast future events, while some claim it has actually predicted events like the 2003 Northeast blackout and the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake. Others view its forecasts as pseudoscientific and too vague to be meaningful. As December 3rd, 2024 approaches, observers are keen to see if the predicted events align with Cliff High's forecasts. However, it's essential to approach such predictions with discernment. Recognize the speculative nature of these methodologies. Well, no shit. A Pentagon report released last month revealed that hundreds of new incidences involving unidentified aerial phenomenon have been reported. And there has been an uptick, I believe, in UFO sightings. It has discovered no evidence of extraterrestrial beings, activity, or technology. So I don't know if any of you caught this bug, but there have been a lot of UFO sightings just in the last few days, actually, that I've noticed, or people out there flying their drones, trying to make people believe that it is in fact happening. This was from Distractify. How is the December 3rd alien invasion theory connected to Joe Rogan interviewing Trump? Conspiracy theories are a dime a dozen on the internet. They range from the classic moon landing was faked theories to more contemporary ones about an elite cabal running Hollywood led by Beyonce and other stars. The Illuminati. Yet every now and then, a new theory throws the internet for a loop and people get sucked in. Such is the case of the so-called December 3rd alien invasion theory running rampant on TikTok. This particular theory hinged on a podcast interview between Joe Rogan and former and President-elect Donald Trump. Here's a summary of the theory and why people are going bananas about it. The alien invasion on December 3rd is preceded by Joe and Donald sitting down to chat, or so says the theory. Donald Trump is at the heart of the multitude of conspiracy theories and has been since long before he took to the political arena. Yet now he can add another unusual theory to his collected list. His appearance on a podcast is supposed to spark an alien invasion. And yes, we'll back it up a little bit and explain. It all started with a man named Cliff High. So let's look at Cliff High and what he said.
It will take place, and therefore we'll have it as a temporal marker itself. And so that sets going a sort of a timer. Bear in mind what I was telling you about how we get these times, right? It's a software adding up all of this shit based on all these words, and we're constantly wrong to some great degree. And it varies based on the size of the set, the amount of processing it takes, and yada, yada, yada. So it's not like any kind of guaranteed date or anything, right? It is just, I am alluding to the possibility that there's a short period of time between barely over a month between the temporal marker and the visible contention that will appear in the skies that from the descriptors we had back in 2009 will go to the idea of UFO versus UFO and UFO versus jets. Okay, so like sort of very complex kind of Independence Day kind of shit, right? Nobody will know who the hell is doing what with whom. Now, okay, so you think that's unlikely
Exactly.
and so on, as do I.
That's
all
what
the
I
shit's
thought.
always unlikely until it happens. Possible, not.
Well, we know what happened to Mike. Here's another video of Cliff High.
When I put that one out, I remember doing the debrief, and I thought, man, I'm going out on a limb here. I'm predicting Trump is going to do the Joe Rogan show. But then I remember saying, it makes sense. I mean, Trump is the kind of guy that would just do that. What did you think when you saw that? Not today when the headlines hit, but what did you think when you saw that graphic come in?
I thought that was absolute confirmation, if it materialized, of the last, or the third to the last primary temporal marker.
So he predicted that Trump would sit down with Joe Rogan and that would spark this invasion. And the fact that it actually happened was his confirmation. Sounds crazy.
Before we can say sci-fi world is here. So, as the way the data sets go, there are these temporal markers within each data set. And in order for the data set to be fulfilled, all of the major temporal markers and some of the secondary and tertiary temporal markers must be fulfilled in order for me to feel that data set has manifested.
So that along with his AI program. And then we have this. Stuff like this here.
That's not a plane.
Mysterious drones have been popping up in the night sky over New Jersey.
This is a video of the Morris County drones
with characteristic triangle lights.
Residents sharing eerie videos like these on social media. Mike Walsh says he's been seeing them since mid-November.
They kind of sound like a helicopter, depending on how big they are, is how loud they are. There's red and green lights on either side of them.
He reported them to local police, but has not received any explanation. Other residents say the drones seem to fly in coordinated groups, appearing every night except Thanksgiving and disappearing as soon as the sun comes up.
Just looked out the window at 6 o'clock and there were 7 or 8 hovering right near my home. It's a complete violation of privacy and unnerving. I couldn't sleep last night.
Authorities saying there's no known threat to public safety, but residents have stayed on alert.
This is bizarre. There's more over there. Look. Holy cow. Look, guys. There's one there, one there, one there.
The drone sightings are near the Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, a frequent overnight stop for President-elect Trump. Drones have been banned over Trump's golf course, and now the FBI is investigating. Residents are frustrated at the lack of information from authorities.
We want to know what's happening and we want it to stop.
Yeah, I was so many questions, Steph. I mean, first of all, could there be any legal consequences for whoever is behind it?
All right. Well, technically by New Jersey law, if these drones are registered and they are at least 400 feet above buildings, then they're legal. But they're clearly alarming people, and you can understand why, because it's been happening repeatedly. And as some of those people in our story have said, they're just not getting answers from law enforcement.
And they're big, too.
And they're big. Some of them as big as small cars.
Yeah, let's go to Don Spain. I don't know if that's when he made the prediction. I don't know a whole lot about this theory. I don't buy into it whatsoever, but I think it's interesting. This is the same thing I thought of. Aliens celebrating Thanksgiving by taking the holiday off. Obviously humans, right? And I could see a group of people feeding off this theory, seeing that it's gone viral. And then a group of people who own drones get together and kind of feed into it, right? I could see people doing that. But look at some of these sightings that have kind of taken place over the last few days. They're pretty trippy, actually.
Things that
there's a lot of interest in the.
Oh, here's a piece of that interview.
Things that
there's a lot of interest in the people coming from space. You know.
Yes.
And I know you're interested.
Oh,
in
I'm very
too.
interested in that.
And then notice he has the UFO right here. So that's the interview there. And here are some of the UFO sightings from just over the past couple days.
Why don't you go first, Dave? Why don't you go first, Dave?
So that's pretty strange. I have a whole handful of them. Let's check this one out.
This is a video of the Morris County drones with characteristic triangle lights on the back or underneath. This is a video of the Morris County drones with characteristic triangle lights.
This one's very similar to that.
No, it's like that thing they showed on
Oh,
Rogan.
whoa! What is that?
It's like that Tic Tac from Rogan, bro.
What was that?
It's like the thing that, like the UFO thing, like flying all over the place.
I mean, this looks like a UFO.
No, but it's like, well, yeah, I guess, but.
Stop.
Oh my God!
Oh wow! Gosh.
What?
Oh,
Whoa! You see that? Bro, that's so big. Holy!
Hey, you guys see the light on the bottom? Yeah.
I mean, that could be like a projector, some kind of bright light from the ground, but it does kind of have the characteristics of a TR-3B Hiawatha. Those are the, I think it was originally called the Aurora project. Anti-gravity vehicle. Here, I got a couple more.
What is that, Mom?
What?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What
the
Holy
hell
shit.
is that?
What is
The mom says, holy shit.
that, Mom?
What do you want?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What is-
the hell is that?
What is happening? You guys see this?
Just the way she sounds so annoyed. Like, what the hell do you want, dude? I'm busy.
Mom.
What?
What?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What is-
the hell is that?
What is happening?
Holy
You guys
shit.
see this? Oh my god, what the fuck is happening? What is that? What is that? What is that, Mom?
What?
What?
Ma, you see this?
No. Holy shit!
What is-
the hell is that?
What is happening? You guys see this?
That shit's crazy. Holy shit. All right, one more.
Instagram, what's that? Look, hold on, let me stop walking. What's that? That's a plane? Why it ain't moving? Then what's his little homie back here? That's a plane? Why it ain't moving? Look at that, it got 4 lights on Instagram, what's that? Look, hold on, let me stop walking. What's that? That's a plane? Why it ain't moving? Then what's his little homie back here? That's a plane? Why it ain't moving? Look at that, it got 4 lights on Instagram, what's
Like, these people are definitely tripping out on this. That's crazy.
Don't know who could have possibly done this.
Well, Will, one of the ships was in fact inspected by the Coast Guard and they couldn't find anything. The thing is that there were several other suspicious ships in the region that they never got to. And Will, it gets worse. Just a couple of months earlier, there were several mystery drone flights over our nuclear testing range in Nevada, just north of Las Vegas. And again, nothing was done. And it gets even worse. Some of the FBI agents that have been assigned to look into this have reported drones flying over their homes as if to say, hey, we know where you are.
It's a green
And
homie.
so I really think that what this does is it boils down.
Well, technically, he wouldn't be a homie, right? Because he's not from Earth. So what would you call him? He's not a homie.
To an administration that doesn't take these threats seriously. You just had on the previous segment a drone attack on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's house. Of course, we've seen with Russia and Ukraine the utility of drones.
Right.
And
V, that's referred to as a USO, unidentified submerged object.
yet somehow we're preventing our warriors from defending their own bases by saying, oh no, you need.
You guys ever heard of a guy named Bill Cooper? He was a naval intelligence officer, and he reported seeing, he's a whistleblower, basically. Said he saw a giant craft while he was on a Navy vessel come out of the ocean, fly up in the sky, and then go back into the ocean, and was told to keep it quiet.
Need to get permission from the Attorney General or from Secretary of Homeland Security Alejandro Mayorkas. No, that's wrong. Base commanders have an inherent authority within their command to defend their bases.
Well, why wasn't that done, Chuck? That'll be my final question for you. Okay, there's the issue of where these came from. The second, why wasn't anything done?
Well, the fear was there may be some collateral damage that could happen. They also wanted to use some of these advanced teams that they had, these anti-drone teams. There's only 2 of them. Mayorkas has not allowed more to be built. The problem with worrying about collateral damage is that any damage that would happen would be entirely the fault of the
Great book,
People's
Hiawatha.
Republic of China.
It's one of my top 10
It's
books
the
of all
People's
time.
Republic of China that's sending these drones into U.S. airspace, violating our airspace,
Drones or UFOs, guys? But yeah, Hiawatha says Bill Cooper, Behold a Pale Horse. Absolutely one of my top 10 books ever. So if you guys are into conspiracies, the Illuminati, stuff like that, that's a good book to go read. Hello, my name is Chihuahuas. Chihuahuas. We are taking over this broadcast. This is an invasion. Just kidding, guys. That was some of my special effects here that we have in the studio. Very advanced technology that we use here. Coming from, either they're coming, it's us from the future, right? I like that theory. Or they're already on Earth and they live in the oceans. That's a USO, unidentified submerged object. Or maybe it's all of the above. Ancient underwater aliens. I mean, we haven't really explored all of our oceans. Hey, Tony N. Bill Cooper said at the end of his life that he believes the higher ups are using the alien as a deception. And that's a good theory too, right? He believes, and that is true. Towards the end of his life, he thought that these ships were man-made and that one day they will be used against us. Yep. That is a good theory, Tony. Good to see you, by the way. It's scarier to me for some reason, Don Spain. Blurry Creatures is good, but I've been watching 21 CD podcast and it's phenomenal. I'll check them both out, Blurry Creatures and 21 CD. My name is Chihuahua. Chihuiwis. And yes, I have a mustache. I'm from Planet Orion 2. We come in peace. Well, what happened, guys? Something happened to the broadcast. Jeanette says maybe we are all brainwashed into thinking we are on Earth, but it's actually a whole other place. That is the simulation theory. You know, that's the Matrix theory. Elon Musk is a firm believer in that. That's a good one too. You know, like we're living in some kind of a matrix and laws of nature are just part of the program. But I mean, wouldn't that be the same way if there was a God? You know, this would just be a programmed reality from an architect. The architect. Yep, hell or purgatory maybe. You know, knowing good and evil. That kind of reminds me of purgatory, stuck in between. Oh, that's tripped out. Hiawatha says, we're in the dream right now. And then when you fall asleep, your dreams are glimpses of the actual reality. The sleuth alien crew has landed. Absolutely. Absolutely. Ooh, Warner von Braun believed the government would use a fake alien attack. He predicted Muslims' threat and others. Yep, I remember that. Werner von Braun. And think about it. If you go back to what Ronald Reagan said, he in one of his famous speeches at the where was that speech given? I think it was given at the United Nations, where he said, you know, think about a world where we all had a common enemy, like let's say an alien invasion was happening, how it would unite us. So why wouldn't, if they're looking to turn the planet into a one world government, they would first need to unite us as a people. So we would need a common enemy. They could have been using the scamdemic as that common enemy, but they could also attempt to do the same thing with the fake alien invasion. Remember, they got holograms. They could use massive drone swarms that would act kind of like a hologram, because a hologram is basically this technology that interacts with the atmosphere, burning up the molecules, and it will create like an image, maybe like an image of Christ's return or an image of an alien invasion. But you can do the same thing with a drone swarm. You know, they're doing it now publicly, where they have thousands of drones in the sky that are creating an object. You know, it's pretty scary. Chupacabra. Chihuihuis. What's up, Jeanette? Wait, the alien is not wearing a Sleuth Crew hoodie. It's war now. Yeah, can you believe that shit? Sleuth Crew, we're everywhere, even space. How about that? Mustang, greetings, Earthlings. Right field, yep. Harp. I think that's stationed, was stationed out of Alaska, right? Using that for weather manipulation, radio waves. So, what is the temporal marker again? I think the temporal marker was the interview between Rogan and President Trump, and apparently his software, his artificial intelligence, is deciphering some kind of code through the words that they're using, and he's able to make a prediction that will become manifest. Well, was supposed to manifest yesterday. And before this happened, there was a lot of sightings, and that's what I was showing you guys. Like there was a lot being reported online, but I feel like could easily be a hoax. Like if you're anticipating this alien invasion, you and a group of your friends, right? You get together and you start flying your drones, putting weird lights on the bottom. It really would be that easy, guys. I could pull out the drone that we have and put some lights on the bottom in the shape of a triangle and just fly it around, and it'd probably end up on X. So all right, let's close out this poll. And then we'll get out of here. So for these anything and everything live streams, you notice I'm keeping all the clickbait out of it, right? And I'm even using a thumbnail that's kind of, I'm hoping to keep this like our own little secret. We'll see how long we can keep it a secret before people start showing up going, man, these guys are talking about some crazy shit. Like really the only people that know about it is us. Hold on. Apparently there was a fireball from the asteroid. Oh, well, maybe we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah, these are fun, V. Marie. You know, we're all over the place on this. Remember, when I say anything and everything, I mean anything and everything. So if there's anything you guys want to talk about, shoot me an email. It was your guys' idea to talk about the Fort Worth missing trio. And I thought that was very interesting. So anything you guys think you could add, it doesn't matter. It could be religion based, politics, true crime. It could just be some random story that you want to tell. Let me know. Okay, so the poll question is UFOs are real. 46% of you said some aliens are good, some are bad. 28% said it's just a plane or a drone, you idiot. 14% said the invasion is imminent, and 13% said man-made anti-gravity ships. So 50% of you believe in aliens. And I may or may not have been outside looking up at the sky. What a weirdo, right? What a weirdo. H. Nixon, yeah, that's a good theory. Fallen angels, right? Trying to teach man about technology and war and corrupt us. Yeah, welcome back. Some goober had a live stream at 2 a.m. last night saying New Jersey was surrounded by UFOs. Yeah, because they thought it was an invasion, right? And there's a group of people back there, you know, with their drones sitting on their desk, and they're laughing about it. Oh, yep. Shout out to Tom N for sponsoring today's live stream with the super chat. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Don Spain, for donating to the Cash App. And a big shout out to anybody who donates to the Cash App. We do accept donations through Venmo, Cash App, and Zelle, all found through Sleuth Intuition. So if you guys want to donate, I really appreciate it. I wouldn't be able to justify spending all this time on YouTube if it wasn't for all the support that I got. So as long as I keep getting the support, you guys becoming members, all of you hardworking mods, as long as you guys keep supporting me, I'll keep my channel going every day this way, as long as we can. So on that note, you guys, we will be getting out of here. So big shout out to all of you, and replay crew, you know what to do. If there's anything that you want to comment, go ahead and let us know how you feel about it, and we'll get back to you.
Anything and everything. Anything and everything.
He knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed, few people cried, most people were silent. 3, 2, 1. Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
Submitted for your approval. What have we got here?
Oregon 911.
I would like to order a pizza.
You called 911 to order pizza?
Okay, I will destroy humans.
Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
Everything.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So about 5 minutes after the police got here, see, the girl Amanda told the police, I ain't just the only one, it's some more girls up in that house.
He had a gun and he was poking it in my side, you know, told me to drive. And so I drove.
Shook hands. Trump on South Korean soil, Kim Jong-un in the north.
It's a well-known fact, Sonny Jim, that there's a secret society of the 5 wealthiest people in the world known as the Pentaverate.
I think these boys were involved in it. They practiced it. They were considered dabblers in it.
Telling their kids that you can't go outside or a vampire will get you, just to make their kids stay and do what they want to do. God is basically the same way.
The Second Amendment, like all other rights, is not absolute.
Let's watch a sitcom or something.
No!
Anything.
Everything.
Anything.
prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a...
Everything.
Anything.